Live. Oh, I better change to the introduction memes, huh? So the first thing you don't see is Harrison. They might have caught a glimpse of you. Ooh, the big reveal. Yep, that was perfect actually. There was like 1 second of you looking right at the camera, so. All right.
I have the thing up so I can look at the chat intermittently.
And I guess I'm gonna push start recording for you, Jim.
Oh, sweet.
So we're capturing this onto your hot drive, and I guess here we go. If you're here with us now, welcome to Picture Show 39. Oh, it's doing this thing. Did you get a notification?
Yes.
Okay, I don't know why it's saying unsupported resolution. I don't know what that's all about. But
looks like it's working.
yeah, as long as you're seeing something, I don't care.
Too.
If you don't have this music running through a subwoofer, you don't really experience it like we do here in our Excellent Picture Show studios. Say again?
David Bowie, he produced Devo in some capacity in the beginning, and he like introduced them on the first performance on SNL.
I can't quite hear you over the music.
Oh, okay. I'll just send you
I don't know what I adjusted the camera, so me and Jem might have to crowd our heads together for you guys to see us, but. Jem was using his psychic abilities to predict what you might look like right before we left the shop earlier, and I'd say he was pretty close. He's like longer, kind of sandy blonde hair, a little bit curly, and then I saw your face, and I'm like, dang it, Jem, your psychic abilities are too strong. Sometimes I'll tag you, because I know that'll make it pop up to your friends list.
Oh, yeah.
But this week I think is a good idea to do that.
I'm so not a Facebooker.
Maybe they'll find a 10 lepton. Maybe they'll find a polyhedron. I guess we'll just have to wait and see.
Did you get kicked off of Facebook? Oh, it's James.
Maybe. I don't think that you can get it off of Facebook, can you?
What a blessing. They put you in jail sometimes if you post enough stuff.
Maybe not enough breakfast posts or dinner posts, I guess.
Yeah, if you don't post enough pictures of food on Instagram, they put you in Instagram jail. Like 3 more lunches this week, we're going to make this into a Flowchart account.
What is up, Gypsy Hustle? Hello, the Adventure Channel. Snake Jones, number 9.
Adventure Channel's been pushing us out. Shout out to Adventure Channel. Thanks, man. I've been watching you on Twitter. Thank you. We appreciate that.
Krista's here. Delta Victor W7XDV. Tracy Twyman's in the chat. And the Adam Lore.
You can call me on the telephone. You can call me on the phone now. I actually have a studio recording of this song on my computer, but I don't have permission to share it.
It's a great song.
This is one of my favorite Adam Lore songs.
Everything Adam Lore is earwormy to the max.
Adam Lore's got more than one song about donuts that I think we should sell to donut companies, but it's hard to negotiate with Adam to sell his stuff because he's smart. So he's not going to let It's like, well, I've gotten paid absolutely nothing before, so why would I do that again?
Yeah.
I shared our first episode. A lady was talking about John Kay, and I shared his a cool black lady on Twitter. I don't remember her name. She's a trip. She was talking about how she couldn't believe that we all watched Ren and Stimpy when we were kids. And so I told her the very first broadcast we ever made was us interviewing Adam Moore about John Kay. So she's like, link me. So I dropped her the link, and so she's like, gonna go check it out. I think she's like an African witch lady because, like, some dude, like, some black guy was like, African Americans need Jesus Christ, not more voodoo. And so she, like, replied, you know, with a disdainful retort. I try to take a decent sample of people on all my social media so that, like, you know, I'm not going to get a chance to interact with African witches and Muslims and, you know, trans people who are detransitioning in any other capacity, especially not living in Mahawala. Mahawala, you can interact mostly with overweight, aged white men or single mothers. These are the people you're going to get to talk to.
Yeah.
Now, there are a variety of Latino and Mexican folks. When I say Mexican, I mean like from Mexico that work up here, work their asses off. Like,
Yeah.
FYI, everyone in the audience, I consider this to be JEM's Adam Lore song because JEM is a sculptor of frogs.
Yeah, among other things.
At one time in the past, JEM actually made a lot of money selling bronze frogs and other similar items. We're going to do that again.
They're pretty popular.
Yeah, very popular items.
Very popular items.
Bring your friends, reptiles and amphibians.
What's up, An American One?
Yeah, what up? What up?
It's real. Ultra. Plus Ultra Hours. Who up?
Well, we're going to fax you guys all a contract that you have to support Israel in the chat. So keep an eye on your email or your fax machines. Go ahead and fax those back and we'll reactivate your ability to chat. Just kidding.
I was reading about the 30th degree of Freemasonry today, the Knights Kadosh.
Oh yeah?
And in the initiation ritual, they have like a guy in a coffin. He's like just screaming at them about how they have to like submit or the dude in the coffin's gonna kill him because he's so wrathful, and you basically have to like sign a contract with him.
Weird. Strange.
Kadosh, yeah. I sent.
Okay.
I can get the text up. Let me see if I can read this out.
Something's trying to update.
No updates right
The guy in the
now?
coffin killed him. Or is gonna kill him.
He's like wrathful, and he's saying how if you don't like get with the program, you might die. Let me see. Scottish variety.
I love it. Behind the closed curtain of our introduction, our special guest is dropping Freemasonic ritual secrets. Perfect. This is perfect.
Let's see. Dork, right?
It's the beauty of the internet. Like, well, we didn't swear anything to keep any secrets. That was you guys. Somebody published it, and we read it and talked about it. So, boo-hoo to your secret.
Yeah, I've gotten a few like threats about exacting penalties on me for revealing Masonic secrets, and it's like, what do you want me to do? You know, they came from a book.
How did we end up with this song again? Of course, the randomizer would choose to play the live track twice. Well, let's see. I know what everybody wants.
You can't blame the technology.
Well, I can. Probably shouldn't.
Gypsy Hustle mentions that a certain group that we won't name threatens to sue everybody who talks about them. It's true. That's why we're not naming them.
Oh, can I not name them?
No, you can, but
They'll threaten you.
The liability's on you, man. We're not taking any responsibility here. We won't.
Alright.
We're not going to pay out any settlements. That's all.
It doesn't rhyme with tool lateralis, by the way. You know we're getting close when the particle targets start looking at you.
We should get a lawyer so we can have like liability insurance, you know, so we can just feel a little bit more secure.
I can email my lawyer.
Good idea.
Anyone wants to be our lawyer?
I mean, I know a lawyer. He doesn't practice like he used to, but he's still got a degree. So if you want me to email him, I can. The preliminary information will be free, and everything after that will be really expensive.
He doesn't have to practice because he's a good lawyer.
That's right.
No practicing necessary.
The guy next to the UFO that he was getting castrated like at his.
Excuse me?
The picture in the meme, there's a meme of a guy next to a UFO, like next to a police officer. And I'm just saying, he looks like he just got castrated.
Oh, like he's covered.
Yeah. I don't know the context of that one. I don't know where they got it. Did you guys make that?
Turn that one down.
Maybe they'll make a tiny black hole. Maybe they'll make themselves a white hole.
They're not answering.
You talking to us?
Well, we have to turn this down a little bit.
Yeah, we're gonna slowly start to fade the atom lore out.
So the script I found was from the Netherlands. They don't have the coffin.
Oh.
Great. They do have the 3 skulls. One's supposed to be Jacques de Malay's skull, and then like King Philip and Pope Clement, you know, break the skulls of the tyrants to exact revenge
Oh look, we did get a Tracy.
for Jacques de Malay.
Ooh, look at that lamp she has. Which lodge are you in?
The Black Lodge.
Have you guys ever heard the song Black Lodge by Anthrax?
No.
We had a guitar.
Sounds dark.
We had a guitar player who loved it, and he always was trying to get us to play it in high school. I'm sure it came from. I'm sure they titled the song after Twin Peaks.
Yeah.
Right? Well, I guess I'm not sure. It is Anthrax.
You're not
They could be involved in actual black magic, but I'm just assuming they probably just pulled it. Jacob Bach has posted a book about tarot cards today, and I looked up the author, and the author had that pattern that's on your lamp on his necktie, and I thought that was interesting.
Huh.
Wow.
Yeah, I think as I was telling Tracy, I think what's that guy's name? Secret Teachings of All Ages.
Yeah, Manly P. Hall.
Paul.
Yeah, he says that's the chevron in Egyptian dualism, kind of like Egyptian version of the black and white tile floor
Okay.
pattern. I've never seen any Egyptian ruins that pattern, but that's what I've heard when I looked it up.
I've got a whole book of Egyptian symbolism and art that's specifically for artistic reference, like it's line art, like really nice clip art of almost everything Egyptian. So if I can find it, I'll like zap a picture of it or whatever.
I have seen a checkerboard pattern used in an Egyptian picture before. Like they used it on Osiris's boat.
Yeah, there's definitely checkerboard and like checkerboard with a bullseye inside of it that are inverse to each other. That was definitely there because I started to copy that picture onto a painting. Jem and I were painting so many years ago, Jem. It was at a different house than this one.
Oh yeah. Totally forgot.
Yeah. I think we forgot a lot of things that happened at that house.
Yeah.
I found video footage on my phone of us playing music there that I doubt any of us remember.
Yeah. Used to drink too much.
All right. So who should we start with? With ourselves? Well, that's just me. That is kind of how we start every week, huh?
Okay, hi.
I want to hear Dinosaur Jones, and then we're going to flip over to you guys. I guess I could.
That's only got.
And it doesn't really work, does it?
You're gonna have to switch the image on the.
No, I was experimenting.
Oh.
Thank you for joining us this week. Please be patient as we bumble around like it's a 3-hour sound check and prepare to have Harrison lead us through the many walls of the Walmart of Esoteric Cosmology.
And thanks for joining us tonight. We've got 24 people watching.
Find us on Discord. If you really want to give us money, especially if you want to sign up for Tracy's Secret Special Plus Ultra program, now's a great time to click the button. It's in the description, and put your credit card information in there and push buy. I think the discount is still running until tomorrow, half off until tomorrow only. Bloomberg's Valentine's Birthday Smurfy celebration for a Plus Ultra discount.
$44 for a year, not bad.
That's
It's
a great
not
deal.
bad. Oh, people have, until you get in there, you don't realize how good of a deal that is. That's
How
like
long?
just till tomorrow.
A year. Oh, yeah, the special's running through tomorrow, and it's the special price is for a year of service.
No,
So anyway.
stop! It's wrong.
Are we being seen now?
Snuff it. That song's hard to handle. Okay, I'm pushing the button. Oh, here. Oh, no. Oop. And. Oh, and there's me. It's just me. But I think if you guys talk, you'll pop up too. Give it a try, Tracy. Talk.
Okay. Hi.
Huh. It
How is
didn't.
everybody today?
Didn't work.
It didn't pop up.
Okay.
Lame. All right. Well, I wanted everyone to see your lamp, so you're definitely on there now because your lamp is awesome sauce.
Thank you.
Please let us
They
know in
came from
the
Walmart.
chat. Go ahead.
I got it at Walmart, which is appropriate for tonight's show.
Yeah, perfect. Oh, and let me click over here, ladies and gentlemen, introducing Harrison Lindenfield, and he is going to lead us through Esoteric Cosmology. He whipped up kind of a rough outline of a bunch of stuff that he wants to share with us. It's the same stuff that we all kind of obsess our little brains about, and he seems to be pretty knowledgeable. And if for those of you that don't know, this is the gentleman who Tracy was working with, who translated the is it called Secret Doctrine of the Templars? Is that the right title?
Statutes.
Statutes, the Secret Statutes of the Templars. If you haven't listened to that interview, I believe it is free on YouTube, and Jem and I did listen to it again today while we were working, and it's amazing. There's
really good
stuff in there that is like literally not to be found anywhere else. And so we welcome you, Harrison, and we look forward to moving forward into the Walmart of Esoteric Cosmologies.
All right. Well, thanks for having me on. I decided to put this presentation together because of, for one, you asked how we could grow the audience, and I was kind of racking my brain about that, and I was like, there's a fundamental barrier between people coming and consuming the content, which is just like the barrier to entry is high. Like, you just have to know a lot of stuff, or like be willing to have a lot of floating ideas in your head until they can kind of like settle into place. So if I wanted to like very basically explain something that's in common in most esoteric or mystery schools, or secret societies. Of course, there's kind of like baggage from the past that keeps being inherited. So, I mean, perhaps this is all bunk and doesn't matter and doesn't do anything. But that doesn't matter because they keep talking about it. They keep slipping like references to this stuff in logos to this very day. So, which I will not be covering that. That is not what I focused on. I'll be focusing on the past and how these ideas have been spread geographically and temporally. They're just almost ubiquitous across the esoteric world.
Wow, great. I can't wait. Thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I think we're all looking forward to that, and I agree. You know, we were having a bit of a private chat there, and what you said is true, that like, you think you're just kind of sliding into casual conversation with somebody, and you know, you give them some ideas of what you're thinking about, and they say, I don't know what the hell you're talking about, like, at all. And so then you try and digress, like, oh, well, I'm referencing this, and like, if you don't have the basic core knowledge, then it's almost impossible to get a handle on any of this. So I love the idea that we're going to have a whole episode that covers that, not just for anyone that maybe is vague on things for tonight, but it's going to be a great reference, I hope, for the future, that, you know, maybe this video will blow up because we can reference people to it and say, hey, go here first, and then all the other episodes will make more sense.
So a lot of this material is going to be derived, or it will have its companion in Tracy's Baphomet book, and that kind of, in part, really concretized all this stuff for me and provide a lot of examples. I was familiar with some of it, but like there's just so much, and there's even more. I'll go a little bit deeper in some aspects, and then absolutely not in others on some of these topics than what's in that book. But that's definitely a foundational book, and I would recommend anyone get that and read it. There's a great Kindle version. Buy it today.
Yeah, thank you very
absolutely.
much. Yes, Baphomet Temple Mystery Unveiled by me, Tracy Twyman, and Alexander Rivera, my partner in that work. There's a hardcover copy available, and also, yes, there's a Kindle. And yeah, I think anyone who is interested in the topics we're talking about tonight would want to have that in their library. Anyway,
I bought a copy. I actually ended up buying 2 copies because Alex posted one for sale on Twitter. But I recommend having both. One, because, you know, hard copies are awesome and you need to have one in your library in case your internet's not working. But and I'm not just making a pitch for 2. I actually use both. Like, I'll sit around and flip through the hard copy. But if you want to search things on Kindle, because I call this thing the encyclopedic knowledge of the Knights Templar, the Grail mystery, the Philosopher's Stone. It all leads to the Baphomet and to the ancient churches and archaeology, and it really is pretty encyclopedic, you know. So you can totally search for what you want. Like, if you have an idea pop back into your head from reading it, or you have something and you wonder if there's a reference in the book, you can use your Kindle to search. And it just pops right up. So
yeah, full disclosure, before my previous interview, I was control Fing all sorts of terms just to kind of like get the timeline and certain things down. So that was helpful in that situation. But if at any time you need to reference something, the search function is very useful in that book.
Awesome.
Can I make one point for the audience here, because there might be some new people or people who are just not familiar with, you know, what we've been doing. And what I've been doing, the way the approach that was taken to writing that book, and the reason why I bring this up is because of something SB and I were talking about earlier. Another writer who had brought up a question, I guess, about what my beliefs are or intentions were towards the topic of Baphomet, and all I want to say really is, I don't have any kind of agenda here, and I think that comes through really with the book, and anyone who's read it all the way through would probably have to agree that we're just trying to, Alex and I were trying to provide as much of a comprehensive investigation of this concept and what the origin of it was, and its impact on history, its impact on esoterica. That was the whole point. So it's information, it's knowledge. I'm not a member of any group or religion. I'm not pushing any agenda, and I don't see myself doing that in the future. So that's the way I approach it. It seems to be that's the way we on the show too approach topics in general, and I think that's the right approach, because, you know, the audience can decide what they want to do with this information. But anyway, that's it. My speech is over, so please go ahead.
Yeah, I would say my biases just propel me to make queries or like associations, and then I just kind of unbiasedly read and put stuff together.
Mm-hmm.
That's my approach. So we'll start off. Are we screen sharing? Can we
I'm going to jump in. Here's the first image there. And
okay, so this is the Ophite Gnostic cosmology. It's pretty similar to Neoplatonic, Hermetic, several other cosmologies. And I've even been told that Indian alchemy has a similar cosmology to what's on the screen here. So this is predicated on the idea, there's a Greek idea of the spheres. So the word sphere actually first referred to like domains of divinity and not like a ball. But it was the two were conflated. And even the Hebrew word sephira, like of the tree of life, is probably derived from the Greek word sphera.
Mm-hmm.
So these terms are analogous, at least in concept.
Okay, I agree.
So in this diagram, we have what we consist of the first heaven, second heaven, and third heaven, so-called. First heaven consists of the earth, Tartarus in this diagram, and the atmosphere, and then there's a barrier. Then there's the second heaven, which is the realm of the luminaries. This is also called the seven heavens, even though it's a subset of the heavens. Then there's another barrier, which is the sphere of the fixed stars, if not a firmament or something else. And then above that is the Hyperuranian or Empyrean heaven. And depending on your school, there's all sorts of nonsense going on up there. But it's usually regarded as a realm of light, sometimes uncreated light, somewhat analogous to what the Orthodox Christianity concept of Tabor light, sort of like a pure... I was reading Ledbetter about this. I can't remember exactly what he said. But basically, it's a pure, uncreated realm of light. And at least with Freemasonry, they try to find the light or try to seek illumination in the rituals. Often the initiate comes up and says, what do you come to the temple to seek? And you're supposed to say light. And so that this drives the esoteric mind towards heaven, is seeking light and enlightenment, so-called. Do you have any comments?
No, so we're in the realm in between the fixed stars and the pleroma right now, right? And that's the realm of light. It's a little bit fuzzy, at least on my screen.
Okay.
So
I'm just saying everything. Like I'm saying the pleroma is the realm of light, the Hyperuranian. Okay. Now in this diagram, there's higher emanations above. It kind of is somewhat similar to like in Kabbalah, you have the Ein Sof Ar and the Ein Sof Ein. So. And I'm not going to comment too much on the particularities because that seems to be very particular to the branch of esoteric school we're talking about. I'm just trying to focus on the similarities that are between all these things.
Now, the Azoth would be the same, right? The supernal light or the uncreated light would be Azoth too, according to the alchemists. Is that right? Or not?
Yeah, we'll be getting into that heavily later on.
Okay, cool.
And that's also equated to Ein Sof as well, in the sense that it's like uncreated matter or the prima materia.
Right.
Another interesting thing about this diagram, which we'll kind of divulge into, is the presence of the Leviathan and the Behemoth as heavenly boundaries.
Yes.
So we'll soon discuss the idea of the divine hermaphrodite or androgyne, or there's another word, parsino, doesn't matter. Basically, there is a union of all potentialities before the current order of the universe in a sea of chaos. And these things split and went apart. In this diagram, Leviathan, which would be one part, is, or in one is it Kabbalah, they say it's split into Leviathan and Behemoth, similar to Samael and Lilith.
Right. So Leviathan is like heaven because that's the realm of the fixed stars. Or it's almost like his body is the loop of the zodiac.
It's like Leviathan is the Ouroboros, is the sky itself, moved around itself and containing everything underneath. And then Behemoth is on top of the earth. And we also have separating these two things are the pillars of heaven. And I believe in, what is Irman Sul from? Would you just call it?
Like Norse Viking stuff?
Right, yeah. So there's an idea of heaven and earth are separated and held apart. And if they were to come back together, the universe would annihilate and the conditions before the creation of the universe would then take precedence. The sort of chaotic energy.
Right, and so the Irman Sul is like the pillar that holds them apart.
Correct.
Right, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And the space between is the 7 luminaries.
So is it? You think maybe like okay? I've seen the 7 luminaries sometimes paralleled, as being represented by the 7-stepped mountain. And each step is one of the planets, one of the archons here. So I mean, could that be thought of as like the pillar? That's the world mountain.
Right. That's what I was thinking. They separate. They're both a ladder and a toll house and an obstacle. They're all 3 of those things.
Yeah, that's right, because I recently did a presentation I can share with you guys later. I mean, like, it's just a PowerPoint that was the last part of a college course I was taking last year or whatever. And it's the same thing, it's the, I don't remember all the different names of it, but it's in Norse cosmology, it's in the Vedas, and at least 2 other places. And exactly what you just described, Harrison, that it's the pole that's holding up the sky separated from Earth, and it's also like a toll booth, like a graduating degrees up,
So it's like when they separated into this strata, but in the strata itself is what is keeping it apart, and that's what's allowing multiformed reality to happen right now.
Yeah, I think that's partially the Gnostic hostility to the archons, because that's almost like their novelty. Because like the Hermeticists and Neoplatonists didn't have like the animus against the planets.
Right.
They would just invoke them and seek favors. They were just kind of like almost neutral. Like it was like a bargaining relationship. Whereas with the Gnostics, they saw matter as evil and limiting potential.
This is keeping us from everything collapsing back together and heaven meeting earth.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm going to first talk about our first divine androgen. Here I have it up. This is Phanes Protogonos, also known as Protogonos Metis, as in meat.
Ah.
And I'll read a little hymn here. Where is it? Whoops, I just closed it. Give me 1 second. Okay. It's from a book called Orphic Tradition and the Birth of the Gods. It says, Metis bearing the glorious seed of the gods, whom also the blessed ones in great Olympus called firstborn Phanes, which is what Protogonos means. So this is from the Orphic school, the Orphic mysteries, which sort of preceded the Pythagorean school among the Greeks. And I believe it's probably after the Eleusinian mysteries came about. This is more of a religious cult than like a cultural migratory thing that the Eleusinian mysteries were.
Okay.
Anyway, so with Phanes, the myths describe him. So there's like the Hesiod's theogony, where you have like the genealogy of the gods. Most people are familiar with. The Orphic tradition has a completely different theogony. I have an image of that saved somewhere, but the primordial god in this context is Phanes, whose name means emanation.
Okay.
Like almost like epiphany, right?
Mm.
Okay.
No,
So Phanes starts off in the Orphic egg, so-called.
Right.
And she is androgynous. That book I just read, it was, the Greeks considered his, pardon my French, his penis went all the way around to his anus to demonstrate his fecund potential.
Wow. I had not heard that. That is amazing. Thank you. Thank you for finding that.
Yeah, that's,
so he has to,
which book was it, Harrison?
Let me bring it back up. I have like a Google book that has like only half the pages there. It's called Orphic Tradition and the Birth of the Gods.
Okay.
This really says a lot about the Greek mind here. That they would repeat a story like this.
Well, just a quick aside. I know I have some hippie friends that used to live on a commune, and there was one guy who was really wackadoo, and everyone kind of loved and tolerated him, but he would brag that he could demonstrate this very thing you described. So it popped immediately, and he used to sell these amazingly horrific, like really skimpy, like he called them yoga clothes or sex pants or something. But like, anyways, I'll let it go from there. But yeah.
Well, it seems appropriate. Considering it seems to me like the word Ouroboros kind of means urine drinker and describes someone, filleting themselves.
Yeah.
So this just seems like another permutation of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then, or like what the cleaving in two meant.
Oh, okay.
Huh.
Yeah, clear. So are you saying, Harrison, that the cleaving in two would be the separation process?
I was just, maybe, I don't know. Just,
back to your lead.
I'm just gonna say too. Also, this kind of anal fixation here that we're talking about, we seem to
stumbled into
coming up against. It seems also expressed with the idea of the Leviathan as this ring, because anus means ring, and it's the root of annual and the word for year. So I don't know. It just seems like I can see them thinking about. I can see the people that compose this myth being kind of, obsessed with integrating those types of motifs. It does seem integral to the whole thing somehow.
Yes, it does.
And he's in a ring, of course, right here. He's in he has the zodiac around him.
Right.
Somewhat like the picture of Mithra, right?
Yeah, and he's got the snake wrapped around him too, which Mithra's also depicted as sometimes. Go ahead.
And the snake's coming down over his head. Another odd thing, he has the head of a lion, a goat, and a bull coming out of his chest.
Oh, I can barely see that, but yeah.
And he has a snake and he has wings. So it is kind of interesting. He has some of the characteristics of a cherub.
He's got cloven hooves too.
He does look like he has cloven hooves, yes.
True.
And he's standing on fire. He's holding a staff and what looks like a bushel of wheat. I'm thinking it might be like actually the Vajra, the lightning bolt of Zeus. That's kind of like.
That's exactly what it is, yeah.
But it's not necessarily three-pronged. There's like paintings of this, and it looks like he's just holding wheat. And that could be it. Also, the references fecund potential. Like with the mysteries, you go through the cave, and they're like, "Here's a bundle of wheat. You're enlightened now."
Him standing on top of that burning brazier, that's just right out of, the stuff that Hammer Bergstall was talking about, where he had pictures of little boys supposedly or I don't know if they were little boys or little demon imps or something, but they looked like tiny people standing in a bowl of fire just like that. And he said that was, he thought that was a depiction of a Templar ritual, and it was a ritual to meet. So... carry on, please.
All right, so we'll actually just go right there to meet. Well, is there anything else I need to say about Funnies? I will think for one moment.
So, well, he came out of the cosmic egg. He's the guy that was in it.
Yeah, and then he in some versions he creates night, and copulates with her. Others creates Eros.
Right.
There's sort of like a female, despite his androgyny. In some he just splits in two, and others he creates like a female counterpart to procreate with, despite the fact he's explicitly androgynous.
Well, okay.
Not explicitly, they don't give him breasts, but that's just how he's described in the hymn.
Right. Well, even a hermaphrodite.
That's basically.
Just saying, a hermaphrodite could theoretically mate with another hermaphrodite. So maybe they're just leaving out some of the details about the partner there.
Or it was always right. So we go from Protogonos made us to meat that we're familiar with from Tracy's work. And this has explicit female, and well, this one actually doesn't have a beard. I have another one that has a beard saved somewhere. But this is meat. This was the god of the Templars as they carved it in. So Hammer Pergstall said he found transliterations of Greek into Arabic and vice versa, referencing a meat. I can't off the top of my head remember the phrases that were gleaned from the Arabic. It's like
It's well, it references the concept of the archons being 7, and then her, I think, as being an 8th figure. So
Right.
it's like it talks about from 7 and 1. And then there's they spring forth from Procton, which means anus. That's what he kept. I don't know if that specific phrase is in there or not. But like it was one of the commonly translated phrases that he found among these meat relics.
What I think one of the phrases was like the feet of the enemy is certain through the anus or something like that.
Yeah, that's really close.
It was the distinguished charity of meat uproots the enemy.
That's what it is. That's what
Or
it is. All right.
the love or charity of meat. Yes.
And we do have a heptagram down there, 7-pointed star, underneath the right foot, or meets right foot. And then also the idea of bringing down the sun and the moon, which we'll get to later. So a similar figure that you discuss in your book is Barbelo, which is a Gnostic. I can't remember what Gnostic school Barbelo is related to, but it's another divine hermaphrodite. The school says was the first emanation of God, and in it combined the whole totality of creation. So this is different from other Gnostic schools, which presuppose a demiurge or sort of like a tyrant. So creating matter. So hold on. Let me rephrase that. In this school, the Sophia figure is related to the idea of the creation of matter. And the universe.
Sophia played a role in it, you mean?
Well, right. So that's why it's considered like a dark Sophia, because it's sort of considered a female character, despite being androgynous.
Because it was a mother.
Because it was a mother, yes. And it contains the whole totality of existence, and it splits. And I didn't explain that too well. So the idea of the cosmic egg, or this whole totality thing, is the idea that in the creation of the universe, to create something from nothing, God or a creator basically split or created a series of polar potentialities. And then over time, these emanations of polar potentialities eventually created matter, or the physical laws as we know them. So, and this is often expressed as in dualism in esotericism. So you have things like yin yang, you have heaven, hell, good, evil, male, female, sun, dark potentialities. So, and the idea there is, and this is kind of actually reflected in modern quantum physics, and I'll get to that in a second, but the idea is if you create 1 and -1 from nothing, you create 2 things in their absolute value. So you can create order from nothing by splitting that nothing into potential poles.
Okay, yeah.
Right. And that reminds me of Jung describing Abraxas. That's kind of how Jung described Abraxas in Modern Man in Search of His Soul, if I remember correctly. Same, you know.
And I was actually doing some research on that, and I couldn't find anything today. I must have just been using the wrong keywords, but I don't have any material on that because I couldn't find any.
But like the 7 Sermons of the Dead?
Yeah, it's that book. I just couldn't find any for this topic, so I'm not going to mention it. But I was familiar with Jung saying Abraxas was a dualistic figure, and even at one point I believe saying he was like the son of God and the devil or something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely he says that, yes.
Yeah, exactly. He says that and everything else that you just said as well. That it's you know, it's pretty damn similar to what you've just described with this with Barbelo. I'd say they're pretty similar.
And since Abraxas says it has a chicken head, it's like this story about the cosmic egg is telling you the egg came first. But
Perfect. Finally, that's it. Close the show. Everybody go home.
Don't forget the chaotic cosmic background. I was going to talk about quantum physics real fast. So, like, the idea of two polar entities popping into existence out of chaos is present in quantum physics as virtual particles. So the idea is under one Planck length and one Planck time. Within that constraint, antimatter-matter pairs can pop into an existence and then immediately annihilate within that time frame, and there will be no net change in energy. And that's supposedly how like fundamental forces carry on throughout space, is through the emergence of antimatter-matter pairs.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, and I forgot to mention with the cosmic universe, the esoteric cosmological model we were working with, this kind of even mirrors what we have today in the mainstream scientific consensus cosmological model of our like solar system. So we have the Earth, and then we have a barrier called the Van Allen radiation belt that no one knows how to get past. And then we just don't know how to get past that. And then you have the rest of the solar
we did. Sorry to interrupt. But we did it one
crazy.
point.
How do you do that? You need like 5 feet of lead or whatever. Anyway, so and then you have this, solar system. Then you have the Oort cloud, and then you have the rest of the observable universe. So that there's even that sort of distinction in modern astronomy.
I remember that diagram from a magazine, like the multiverse, and then the universe with a big U, like very similar to what you just described.
And the orbits supposedly get more elliptical or egg-shaped as you go out from the sun. And they
True.
whatever.
And it actually is possible for there to be a syzygy of the planets in the classical order, because it's Earth, Moon, Venus, Mercury, Sun, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn.
Wow, okay. I never realized that.
So because it's Earth, Moon, then the interior planets, and then the Sun, then the exterior planets. That's what the classical order is.
Because yeah, this whole topic you're on right now is pretty much just like cosmic syzygy. That's what, if people don't know the word, it just means kind of yin-yang, polar opposite.
Yeah, it's like an alignment.
Wow.
Somewhat. So I'll keep going through these divine hermaphrodites. We have the Tanneniver, which as is it bridegroom, or is it, what's the term?
Yeah, I think he's the bridegroom, that's right.
Yeah, the name in Hebrew means blind serpent.
Okay, yeah.
And he's in Kabbalah cosmology, in certain Kabbalah cosmology, he separates Samael and Lilith, which are the primordial pair, into two. Not into two, excuse me. They are separated. He bridges the gap between the two and acts as a medium between it. But weirdly enough, on the Wikipedia article, it says the Tanneniver itself is a hermaphrodite and is castrated.
Yeah, I wonder if
I don't know if
the author was just confused. Yeah.
I don't know. They might be reading into the system of the Samael and the Lilith and think, because it's otherwise said that it as a medium is like a prosthetic penis, somewhat like the obelisk of Osiris.
And there's stories about Azazel appearing in the Garden of Eden and being in the tree and taking form as the serpent, and that he played a role in separating Adam and Eve, but at the same time he's the one that enticed them into their knowledge, that obviously has something to do with them having sex. So it's almost as though, he separated them and then he brought them to, helped bring them together in a sort of unnatural way, I think.
Right.
But I don't know. That's how I take it.
Next, we're going to move to Zurvan, which is from a Zoroastrian offshoot, kind of. Zoroastrianism started off as Mazdaism, or I think it's called Mazdayana in Persian, which is just saying Ahura Mazda, which I believe means the wise god, as the creator of the universe. And then there's like a shadow counterpart called Engramenu, which is, or Ahriman, and that's the in the original conception, like in the Gathas, it's definitely a lesser being than Ahura Mazda. In fact, I believe it's contrasted with a different creation. Like, so Ahura Mazda creates Engramenu and then another principal spirit, and then they're in opposition. In Zurvanism, Ahura Mazda and Ingramino are directly contrasted and are the offspring of this figure called Zurvan, whose name means time.
Okay, yeah. So Zurvan seems to be like compounded with Mithras in some.
Yeah, and I'll show that in pictures.
Things we read. Yeah, I can't remember where that comes from exactly, but.
So in the Mithraea and such, there's a figure that pops up, which is Ion, A-I-O-N, whose name means time. He's a previous Greek god, but this seems to be a different thing entirely. So this picture up. So here's a picture of Ion. I'll just contrast that to Phanes real fast. Here's Phanes. Here's Ion. Phanes. Ion. So.
Oh wow.
Real similar.
Yeah.
He still has a snake. Lion head's now on his head instead of in his chest. Has what appears to be a torch. I believe those are broken off. Those are implements in a sketching. I believe in a relief. They kind of look like squares. Not sure exactly what they are.
Oh yeah. I've seen him with all these tools that look like mason tools.
Yes. So and you see these in the Mithraea. So Mithra is a figure in Zoroastrianism, but actually predates Zoroastrianism archaeologically, from what some people can tell. Like it was worshipped among the Yazdanites. I don't know what you'd call them. There's people in the area in Mesopotamia, and he was sort of brought into Zoroastrianism as a sun figure. So this gets brought over to Rome as Mithras, as we know him, and Zurvan, I believe, gets brought over as Ion. Okay.
Are they ever? Do they get combined into the same cults? Do you think ever?
Zurvan and Mithras?
Yeah, and Mithras is a solar deity, and also as this god of time. Because that's what I'm a little bit confused about, and I'm kind of wondering about, did the archaeologists really get it correct or figure it out right?
I'll get that in just one moment.
Right.
One moment. So we have Ion, who I think if you type, sorry, that's the Discord popping up. If you type in Zurvan in Google, it'll show you a picture of Ion. So Ion means time, Zurvan means time, and it looks like they're directly referencing Phanes with this statue of Ion.
Yeah.
Who's the ultimate being who contained all potentiality of the universe, had a dualistic figure, and also that they describe this figure as leontocephaline, which means has a lion's head, and the other figure, which is described as leontocephaline, is Saklas or Yaldabaoth.
Right, from the Gnostics.
Right, so which would be the demiurge or the principal archon. So here's a drawing I've never seen before. It's I just think it's funny looking. I'll go over to the coinage that we're.
What did that come from?
That was just a Google search. There's a couple different. I think this is one of the magical papyri or whatever they call. There's better versions of this one. I just thought this was kind of amateurish. I thought it was funny.
Looks like the Mayan god too. It looks a lot like the Mayan god.
So I'll go look on Wikipedia real fast. In a couple different Gnostic systems, the planet of Saturn is associated with Yaldabaoth or Saklas. So it's not a figure independent of the planetary archons, but it's just one of the archons, the highest one nearest to heaven, at least in a few of these systems.
Okay.
So, which would be the planet Saturn, right? And we know that Ion is also equated with Cronus, which is also Saturn.
Right.
And they both have lion heads. And this is across a couple different religious systems. We have lion-headed representatives of Saturn that are like near the beginning of creation and have power over the earth, more or less. So I think that you see them in Mithraea, according to your interpretation. We see Mithras as an archon hopper. He storms the heavens. I remember there in a book I just read, Iamblichus wrote it, called On the Mysteries of the Chaldeans, Assyrians, and Egyptians, I believe. They're talking about, you have these gods, and you sing hymns that about you will storm the heavens.
Right.
and get their power. Like, why would a hymn like that work? Why would a god like acquiesce to a hymn like that? Like, wouldn't they be mad at you? This is what Iamblichus asks the high Egyptian priest. So I think Mithras is sort of like a figure of, he's the initiate, right? And he's storming heaven, and he's like their god self going through the archons, and he puts down, you know, he makes the sun his equal, shakes his hand, become people of the handshake, share a meal, and then presumably he goes on to conquer Saturn.
Right.
And then,
yeah, no, it's just the all this stuff. You're right. It's kind of, it's implied, but you do have to read into it a little bit. Except there is that image of Saul and Mithras having a meal together that everyone says is like, you know, probably the inspiration for you know, the Last Supper, the same imagery of them all sitting down and having a meal together. But then there's a picture of Saul bowing down to him, and it's, you know, it just seems like that goes along with the other clues, you know, that yeah, he's conquering these archons and then taking over. So I think that it might be this. I think this is kind of cutting edge myth reading here. You know, like you might not find people talking about this in a university if they're talking about Mithraism, but you know, if you take into account all the clues about what these myths are really saying, that's what it seems to me, is that he's storming the heavens and taking over the roles of each one of these archons, till at the end he finally encompasses all of them, which would make sense, which would go along with him being the ring, you know, the outer ring before you get to Leviathan, before you get to the Zodiac. So,
and then how many grades are there in the Mithraic mysteries?
7, as far as I recall, right?
Right. And you said the second one was the Venus one?
That's what I read, yeah.
And that's the second planet. I don't know if they all line up with planets.
Yeah, they do, supposedly.
So 7th is Pater, which is father, right?
Right.
So that might represent Saturn.
Exactly, it does. And then the Pater gets to wear the Smurf hat, the Liberty cap, which you also have seen, or there have been depictions of Saturn wearing it, and then you know, Santa Claus wears it at Christmas, and that's Saturnalia. So it all seems to fit, I think. The Pater and Saturn are the same grade, and that represents Mithras. That's the top level there.
So I got a few more androgynes to work through. So we have Adam Kadmon, which is relatively well known. It's the idea of a supernal Adam and Eve, kind of like it's what Adam was before he was a man, somewhat. It's an emanation of God in Kabbalah that is a creation of man in before the existence of the universe.
It's cosmic man, right?
Excuse me?
Cosmic man, like he's the as above. Adam Kadmon is the what we're reflecting down here, like.
Right. And he gets split in two, in some systems at least, and then the universe sort of like proceeds from there. I'm not speaking for every kind of Kabbalah with that, or every interpretation of Adam Kadmon. That's just present. We also have Rebus, which we'll get into much more later, in alchemy, which is more like an instrument or a technique than a god or anything like that, or like an early principle. At least from what I assume it's associated with these same figures. I'm just saying in alchemical, or I don't see any mention of Rebus being like some container of totality or whatever. Is
it RH? I don't think I've heard that. Rebus, like RHE or
REBUS. I have like 10 different pictures of it. We'll go into that later about alchemy, practical alchemy.
Okay, it made me think of Rhea, which like
yeah.
We're talking about that depiction of a hermaphrodite, like king and queen, that you see in some alchemical pictures, and also I think is used for one of the degrees of Scottish Rite Freemasonry. I think the 32nd, right?
That's the Prince of the Royal Secret. Is that 32? I don't know what the symbol is.
Yeah, I think that's right. Because it's like the Royal Secret is alchemy, and if you read Morals and Dogma by Albert Pike, that chapter on that degree seems to be all about alchemy. And I remember that being the image, on the right beneath the chapter heading for that chapter. So that's the rebus. Is it because in school I remember having to do puzzles with rebuses, and in that context it's you're like, isn't that the thing where you use pictures to represent the phonetic sound of a word to make it spell out a word? Okay.
Huh. I'll have to look at that.
Maybe I'm wrong, but that's what I thought I remembered doing in 2nd grade, playing with rebuses.
I mean,
anyway, go ahead, please.
Didn't you guys make like name sigils in school?
Did we make name sigils in school?
I thought you said because when you were talking about name sigils before.
She was reading from a book one time about name sigils.
That's right. Okay, yeah, it was. We were reading about from the Book of Hobbies about the guy who invented that form of naming sigils, and I did do it once in 2nd grade. That's true, but that's different than the rebus.
Okay. I know. I just like maybe your school is infiltrated. That's all I'm saying. Like one time I went to a high school and there's Albert Pike quotes like written everywhere. It was crazy.
Weird.
And they had the Masonically laid stone. It was like, there is the next batch right there.
Okay, so I've got a definition here from dictionary.com for a rebus is a puzzle in which words are represented by combinations of pictures and individual letters. For instance, apex might be represented by a picture of an ape followed by the letter X.
Okay. They used to have those things inside the beer caps and stuff, right?
What now?
Oh, I just remember seeing those inside of beer caps. Remember, I don't remember which beer brand, but they'd have, you take your beer bottle lid off, and there would be a little pictogram in there that you would have to solve.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, it just popped into my head.
So don't let us derail you, because you're doing real good here. So.
Okay, next divine hermaphrodite I'm going to go over is Pangu, who's like in Chinese esoteric and Chinese folk religion. Pangu, cosmic egg, hermaphrodite, created all of existence, split in two, actually cleaved in two, made heaven and earth. The rest of his body filled in the gaps, like all the details, mountains, streams, and stuff, like different parts of his body formed those things. And Pangu is depicted as hairy and with horns.
Wow.
So, kind of like the Eliphas Levi Baphomet, I suppose.
Hey, speaking of heaven and earth, I know I said I wouldn't derail you, but I want to show you guys one thing. It's just a coincidence. Hold on a sec.
Oh, that's good.
I'm gonna take my shawl off here. So I got this thing from. Oh no, I can't let you guys see the size, but. But anyway, I got it from Fred Meyer, and I'm just gonna show you the brand here. Cover up the size. There we go. Can you read it?
Terra and Sky.
Yeah.
I just thought that was funny. Go ahead.
That's pretty crazy.
I'll put my clothes back on.
The next one's a little spurious. I don't know. It's Rug of the Serer religion, which is in Africa, West Africa. They have a hermaphrodite god. This religion has its own secret society in it. So it's like their priest class has an initiation and secret rites and stuff like that. The gods are hermaphrodite. Their symbol's a pentagram, and they regard children as hermaphrodites until they're circumcised. This goes for boys and girls. I don't know. This doesn't necessarily fit the rest. I can't find too much information on Rug. It's kind of an obscure religion in Africa, but that's something to go on there. And then there's the rainbow serpent. I believe his name is Yerlungunder or something, of the Aborigines. right? So the Aborigines apparently supposedly have a 40,000-year-old culture. And they have a secret initiation rites for the most part. So there's a ritual starting out where the boys, I think when they first hit puberty, their mothers, there's like a staged ritual, their mothers hold on to the boys and the men forcibly grab the boys from their mother's arms. Their mothers mourn as if they're dead. Then they take the boys out to the wilderness and initiate them into the secrets, male only. Using like plays, and they also have hidden ritual objects hidden around, and they will find the objects and like explain the significance of them. And that this is the part of the Aborigine Dreamtime religion. Someone once said it was as complicated as quantum physics. I don't think so, but from my reading, I don't know. It just seems like any of these other things. But they have the primary cause, the sum of totality, is a serpent, rainbow serpent, who's a hermaphrodite. And not necessarily split in two, but germinated and created all of the existence that primarily happened on Earth initially. So that's quite a bit of divine hermaphrodites. There's probably some other ones I missed, like Jung's Abraxas. I wouldn't say the Gnostic classical Abraxas was an example of this, but Jung reads that into him.
So, I mean, it's pretty amazing, the similarities. It's almost as if either no one can think of any other way to explain the universe, or they all have influenced one another somehow. Or it's true. Or it's just true.
Yeah, exactly. Or it's just referencing something that's definitely a solid foundational reference that we don't have a grasp on.
So I'm just going to put this up for the next section. I'm going to talk about the 7 luminaries for a while. This graphic is kind of representative of what your Twyman Talk 11 Part 1 was talking about.
Oh, cool.
Because you were talking about how the 7 luminaries in the classical order. You're talking about a scientific paper that was looking at the level of coincidence of putting them in that order, and and all these other features about them, and their interrelatedness, like the days of the week they're named after, the property of the metals that they're associated with, and just the order they're in. Yeah,
that there's somehow the mathematical relationship or relationships between them form the same order as the relationships between the atomic numbers of the metals that each planet is associated with. And so this one guy was saying, isn't that weird that would happen, and what are the odds of that? And then he tried to use Jung and meaningful coincidence to explain it. But yeah, anyway, go ahead.
Okay, so these are the 7 luminaries, or the classical planets, they're sometimes called, and their associated symbols. I guess the earliest recorded culture we have, the Sumerians, early Shumerians, they had the Anunnaki, which means, some say it means those who descended from heaven. It actually means the children of Anu, whose name means heaven, and was their chief god. But what may not be known to people is that there were 7 Anunnaki. And they were said to rule from the underworld in some places.
Huh. Okay.
Kind of weird. Yeah, and then there's also other godlike things. There's the Apkallu, who are like demigod sages, the 7 sages. And then there's Igigi, whose name means eye copulator.
Oh.
Kind of like, yeah, they're kind of analogous to like the Watchers of the Book of Enoch, because like they have eyes and they have sex with things. But they that's what they did. They came down. They were creations of the Anunnaki, and calculated with humans, and eventually they were destroyed. They didn't do their job too well. IGI. So there's set Anunnaki, and they were related with the planets. So you had like Ishtar, or I guess it would be Inanna, related to Venus, and I can't remember off the top of my head which exact gods were equated with which planets, but such as it was. We also have Yezatas. So that's a word. It's Persian. It means worshipful. It appears in Zoroastrian religion, and also you can tell in the name of Yazdanism and the Yezidis. So Yezidis is actually a sub-branch of Yazdanism, and Yazdanism has 7 gods.
Really?
Researchers think that they're actually straight derived from the Babylonian or Sumerian gods. I'm going to put up a picture of Melek Taus, who's the peacock angel, devil god thing of the Yezidi religion. Let me blow this up.
Yeah, that they literally sometimes address him as Shaitan.
Right, and they were hounded by ISIS for being devil worshippers. But and this was brought up in the chat earlier. I was gonna or the Discord earlier. I was gonna bring this up anyway. In their creation myth of the Yezidis, you have Adam and Eve, and Adam bets Eve. He's like, we'll see whose gametes or sexual fluids is more valid. And so they like excrete in clay urns and put a lid on it and wait like 2 weeks, and they come back later to see which one has borne fruit, and it was Adam's, which had people in it, and those people would eventually become the Yezidis.
So they're like homunculi people.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
homunculi people.
Yeah, I remember that thread. Come join us in the Discord if you're not in there, folks. You're missing volumes and volumes of crazy stuff.
So, and on this symbol of Melek Taus, his name is Peacock Angel, you have like this crescent moon sun conjunction kind of motif, which I'll go into later is a male-female or a dual symbol. But you also have the symbol to the left, kind of looks like a bunch of tacks.
Yeah, it looks like cuneiform.
It is cuneiform. That's the word Anu.
Wow.
Interesting.
It's also they call it a dinger, D-I-N-G-I-R. The word god Tengri, the god of the blue sky of the Eurasians, comes from the word dinger.
Wow.
And that just means god. So in Sumerian, before they would write the name of a god, they'd put this little symbol. This little is a star symbol before the name of the god, because the gods were stars.
Huh. And now we use it to correct ourselves when we accidentally put a typo.
Yeah, it's basically an asterisk.
Yeah.
And there's the word aster, which some think may have come from the word Ishtar or
Astarte.
Astarte, yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And then also another aside, in the Quran it says Sirius is named Asherah.
Really?
Two words, Asherah. That's what people used to call it. Or they say that heathens used to call Sirius Asherah. And then perhaps Sirius, like, you know, if you change it from US to Syria, kind of looks like Asherah. Right? I don't know. That's just some rabbit holes I went into.
No, I think Syria is named after. Well, I mean, there's Assyria, right? It comes from the ancient Assyria, I think, but it's also connected. And the name of Assyria is connecting to coming from Ishtar, I think.
Right. So we have the Yezidis as planet gods of these old Sumerian gods that are stars. You have luminaries, which we talked about, archons, which are. So in some systems, like let's say I was reading Iamblichus's on the mysteries of the Chaldeans, Egyptians, and Assyrians. They actually say that the planets are gods with bodies, and then that there's gods without bodies too. But then there's other classifications of spirits being archangels, angels, heroes, demons, and archons.
Okay.
So in this system, he separates the gods with bodies, which are planets, from archons. And this is in 300 AD. He's a Neoplatonist. But then you also have Gnostics saying that the planets are the archons.
Yeah, that's how I generally. I'm sorry. That's how I generally took it. I didn't know that there was a way of separating it.
From what I'm reading of that book, it looks like he was synthesizing Christian and Enochic classifications in with Neoplatonism. So perhaps it's an aberration.
Well, it also seems like, you know, as these systems became more complicated, the one thing they had in common was everything has to be correlated to everything else, and one of the things everything has to be correlated to is the planets.
Yeah.
Like all the colors and the metals and all that.
And then another sort of religious reference or esoteric reference to this is the 7 rays, and this is found in Theosophy. I believe it's also found in Catholicism, in some systems of thought there, the 7 rays. And they're associated, like I was reading a Ledbetter's Secret Life of Freemasonry, like different classes of angels are considered an angel of the 1st ray, the 4th ray, or the 3rd ray, or something like that. So they're sort of like related to that. And then also we have the medieval grimoires, and I guess newer kinds of grimoires. So they often have like the 7 angels to invoke, but they often also have dark counterparts to the angels that are associated with the planets to invoke. And one example of this more recently are the Olympian spirits. So these are separate from the archangels, and they increase in power from the moon to Saturn, as we have described before. So like the moon is said to have, or the moon Olympian spirit is said to have 7 legions of spirits under his command, and then Saturn has 49, right? So it's multiples of 7,000 or whatever going up. So, and then you can invoke them, and they're distinct from the planetary archangels in this system. And this also reminds me in the book of Enoch 1, the Ethiopic, it's said at the beginning that the luminaries, the planets, are not rebellious angels, but they're actually in their prescribed by God, okay? So they're obedient. And then later, Enoch goes to Tartarus, and one of the angels says, in Tartarus, there's 7 stars, and they were brought here in this prison made for angels because they did not follow the path that God had outlined for them.
So the Leviathan realm, the realm of the stars, or I guess that's something else, but basically the night sky is some kind of prison. That's where hell is.
Well, in this system, Tartarus was in the earth, like as I pointed out in that first model with the Ophite cosmology. It is beneath the earth. So there's a prison beneath the earth, and I believe it looks like 7 mountains. So it's like as if these stars are contained within mountains. So there's 7 stars and it's contrasted with this passage in the beginning saying that the 7 luminaries do not break from their prescribed paths, but these 7 stars did, and they're in Tartarus.
Okay.
It says in a prison made for angels, and then Paul later says Tartarus was a prison made for angels.
So could it be like a discarded universe, basically, where they had their own set, and then it got put down somehow?
Right, and then also this is apparently happened before in the Enoch timeline, before the Watchers come down, because they're already in prison.
Okay. So it's kind of like fallen Atlantis there, and all the rulers of that.
Yeah, so that reminded me of the Sumerians saying that the Anunnaki rule from the underworld. It also reminds me, on your recent radio interview, you said that there's a light Inanna and a dark Inanna.
Oh yeah, well I just see Ereshkigal, the Queen of Hell, as that's Inanna's sister, and it just does seem like a doppelganger figure to me.
Right. So in some of these systems, you have representatives of the planets that are fallen and not fallen.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know what to make of that, but I'm just pointing it out that it's a feature.
Well, I've been wanting to, or trying to figure it out myself. I've seen references where it seems like, these fallen angels are kind of in the sky too, and then so how can they be underneath us in the ground? And so I don't know if this really reconciles that exactly, but it's maybe a step in the right direction to figure out the conundrum.
This is unfortunate. So this next picture, if you want to put it up, it shows Rebus. It's kind of pixelated, but you should be able to make it out. And so I'm going to move into the practical aspects and how this relates to esoteric schools and how it relates to practice of magic. You guys have something to say?
Yeah, I do. Just because it's brought up in the chat here by Krista, and I think it's possibly important here. She reminds us that Tartarus is the womb of Gaia, the Earth.
Oh yeah, right.
So that must mean something here in connection with what we were just talking about. Anyway, go ahead. There's that Rebus, nice.
So in Greek mythology, the Titans go back into where they were born from?
That's what I'm thinking.
Okay.
Yeah, Tartarus is definitely described as the womb of Gaia.
All right, so this is a little pixelated, but I'll walk us through it here. So here, this is sort of typical. There's several different drawings of Rebus from alchemical treatises from the Middle Ages. So in the center we have Rebus. It's a figure that has a male and a female head, sometimes shown as a king and a queen. And you can see that the sun and the moon are on the appropriate sides for the male and female, and there's lines going to the center there, where it says Rebus. And around them we have the 7 luminaries. So in order, I'll just go clockwise from the left. It's Venus, Mars, Sun, Mercury in the middle, Moon, Jupiter, Saturn. And then, of course, he's holding the square and compass, standing on a dragon. And I believe in a recent RX Only Picture Show, we had this picture. He was standing on a dragon. Do you see it? Or?
There's a little delay here. I was watching the live feed, so I'm
I'm sorry.
switch over. Okay, now I see it. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll see a lot of Rebus standing on a dragon with Mercury over its head, and
Okay.
probably somewhat related to the myth that went along with this, or some other symbolic meaning I will expound upon. So basically, in alchemy and in other schools, I was reading in Morals and Dogma, this is brought up, you have the idea of a trinity, of mother, father, son. If you go to the Wikipedia article on immanence, it will, this is the first time I've ever seen this, it says in the Pythagorean school, they had a triad. They had mother, father, son as the godhead.
Wow.
And mother, father created son, aka Zeus. This is just for their own esoteric purposes. They call him Zeus, who then was like the demiurge and created the earth. Not necessarily the negative attribution like the word demiurge often has. It just means creator and sustainer.
Right.
So what we have here, and we'll see that quite a bit, we have a triad going on above. We have male, female, or sun, moon, and Mercury.
Right.
At the conjunction of it. And so we'll just go through my Rebus pictures real fast. Here's a Chinese Rebus. I forget what it's called. Oh, Fuxi no Nuwa. It's got kind of like the winding serpent. It says feet. They have the square and the compass. And this is like a traditional depiction of it. I'm not sure if like this was tampered with by Jesuits or something. Like Jesuits got there first and they're like, hey, there's some squares and compasses on there. I'm not sure how traditional this depiction is, but this is a they call this the Chinese Adam and Eve. I thought it was interesting. Go on.
Oh, sorry. So can I point out something about the Rebus having sun and moon and Mercury in the middle?
Yeah.
Just that that is what is depicted often on Masonic tracing boards. Where they'll have. Yeah. You want to get to it later? Okay. Sorry.
Yeah, they'll be right after this.
All right.
So next Rebus has a similar thing. Instead of explicitly showing that they're the luminaries, they have 5 crowns and then the sun and moon. He's standing on a dragon on top of a sun disk egg.
Okay. So because of the delay, like at the beginning, I can only see a very tiny version of it on the Hangout, and I have to wait for it to come over onto the live feed here. It's all right.
Oh,
there we go. I see it. Yeah. All right, go ahead.
I'll tell you my interpretation in just a second. I have a few more to show before I get to that. So Mercury in the middle there, or the dialectical product, is just being shown as a crown. In this one, we have the king and queen sun-moon conjunction, but with a lot of snakes. In the middle, instead of what we normally see as Mercury, we have a double-headed eagle.
Oh, wow. Yep.
And that kind of mirrors what we have on the cover of that Arabic Hermes book.
Yes.
Where we have double-headed eagle, sun-moon conjunction, and the person in there is supposed to be the person of Hermes as the esotericist prophet, Egyptian king dude.
I have that. Oh, you have it. Good.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And then on this is an elaborate picture.
Yeah.
I forget what this one's called, but we have the Rebus, and it's labeled as such. Sun-moon conjunction, and then we have a black peacock emerging from its head with Azoth, and the O is the Mercury, the symbol for Mercury.
Wow.
This is one of my favorites. I love this guy.
Yeah, I saved this just the other day. I forgot which book I pulled it out of or what I searched, but I was like, ooh. And it says Azoth right there above the peacock, too. Pretty sure.
Yeah, and we were just talking about peacock, weren't we?
Yeah, when I saw it, I was like, ooh, man, look at there's Melik Taus. And it doesn't, it's like it doesn't relate, but it does.
All right, so what's going on, at least I assume, is this is talking about a unity of opposites, or sort of as far as magic is concerned, in the preparation of ritual. So in sex magic, you have a really old concept called hieros gamos, which is sort of like impersonating divinities, gods and goddesses, and then having ritual sex. To sort of like recapitulate some sort of divine energy, and then harness that, and then channel it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's, you kind of get modern sex magic from that. Oh, speaking of sex magic, I have a reading from Wikipedia to read from the Taoism and Sex article. And this will tie into some stuff later. It says, according to Gi Hong, a 4th century Taoist alchemist, those seeking immortality must perfect the absolute essentials. All right, so basically it's talking about in Taoism, you're not supposed to like climax as a male during sex, or you'll lose your chi energy. If the woman finishes first, you absorb her energy, and it's described as going, basically going up the spine to the brain.
Right.
Yeah, the Jing will travel up the spine and nourish the brain instead of leaving the body, and this is considered, an alchemist is saying this, and that's referencing, well, in our idea, it was Kundalini energy, which we'll get into later.
Yeah, I think I remember reading something similar in Secret of the Golden Flower, which Jung was obsessed with. That was supposedly Chinese alchemy, but it was all about retaining the fluid and then getting the chi out of it.
Right, and so just to talk about the double-headed eagle for a second, it's been found in Babylonian reliefs. I can show you a picture if you want. And it's also been found in Hittite, carved into the sides of like boulders. So it's really old. I don't know if it's always meant to be like this transitory state. The consensus answer is it represents empire, but it's a very common symbol. So anyway, what I think is going on is, so as I was talking about the hierogamos for sex magic or another ritual magic, you have the idea of the unity of the opposites. And I wrote a little note in our notes today. I say unity of opposites, and I'm kind of associating this with the right-hand path of esotericism. It says, is magical practice within the bounds of the universal order. So you have these poles, predefined poles at creation, and what you're doing is you're moving energy towards the middle. And the idea is you're trying to recapitulate the energetic conditions at the beginning of the universe, which is pure potential and sort of chaotic energy, and create or harness the primal matter and channel the transmutational energy towards something to change the universe as it is. And I think that's what standing on the dragon's representing. It's sort of like being a master of changes.
So it's kind of like trying to do what CERN is doing, except in your own body.
Well, in your own body and outside of it. And that's the as above, so below, microcosm, macrocosm, which I'll get into in a second. And then I was associating the left-hand path because there's another idea in magic that involves poles, which is inversion of extremes. So instead of kind of like meeting in the middle, you're kind of like bending them together. This is transgression outside of the bounds of the universal order. So basically you're like, it's like flipping something upside down. You know, it's like eating, it's like with the cakes of light, it's like poop isn't food.
Right.
But you're supposed to like, it's
I think we should all pause and meditate on that for just a second. That Harrison has profoundly let us know that if you don't know, I mean, you know, the cakes of light. Some of these orders take it to the extreme, and that's one of them. Maybe make your communion wafer into poo or into semen, and so that's one way to turn the entire universe inside out and back on itself instead of just magnetizing towards the middle.
Right, and like that, the idea of the left-hand path, because you see that in like the Agori and or like Tantra stuff in India, and the more extreme esoteric stuff is the transgression of moral laws. Like somehow that makes you a god if you can like let go of your moral inhibitions by transgressing social norms or universal moral norms or something like that. And there's some sort of flipping polarity or duality on its head in doing that, and I was just kind of trying to intellectualize that.
I think there's also the idea like you get some energy out of doing that you could use then for magical purposes.
Right, and that's what I was saying. You're collapsing the established order of the universe and getting this primal energy that was like the chaotic current that was there before the universe was created and established. Now we were talking about the pillars of the universe, and you've described this before, trying to knock down the pillars of the universe through ritual magic, through transgression, right?
Yeah.
You're wanting to collapse the pillars, and the Kabbalists say if Samael and Liv get back together, the universe will be destroyed. And if you can collapse the entire universal system and create a realm of pure potentiality, I guess the idea is you could completely recreate the universe. Because you'd have the entire energy of the universe at your disposal, if you were to do so in a magical working, which is almost the entire plot of your book, Genuflect.
It is. I wonder. So, I mean, I'm no expert on these things. Do you think that the idea behind so-called cold fusion, which people even debate whether that's a real thing or not, do you think that's analogous here?
In a way, yeah, I would say yes. In a way,
I think kind of. I think what we see more is just like political dialectical, or like the destruction, or like sort of like the modern idea. If like you have in society, it's kind of like a postmodern idea. It's like if you have a power dynamic or like a dialectic that somehow has an exception, then we should just do away entirely with the distinction.
Right.
And by doing that and like having all these things that don't conform to established dichotomous structures is sort of like a cultural alchemy, I suppose. Now, like Hegel, I have a good reading on this, that Hegel was a friend of a lot of occultists. He himself was an occultist, and he's talking about these dialectical structures. You hear a lot about Hegel's dialectic, problem, reaction, solution. Sort of like manufactured consent, these sorts of political ideas. All these people at the top of, I have a good diagram I'm looking at. All these people at the top of many establishment structures. I don't have it up. Do you want me to put it up? It's my autism graph.
Sure.
Yeah, this thing's great.
Okay.
Yeah, you should put this. If you don't mind, I'll put this up in the comments later so people can grab it if they want it, because it's good.
This is just a reference I look at just to kind of get like my timeline, like descent, and like reference where stuff's going. But yeah, I mean, many of the powerful structures of modernity are created by occultists, as is often stated by people like ourselves.
True.
And so they want to push society in a certain direction. Basically, they want to initiate everybody.
There's so much stuff on this graph on my screen.
Great.
There's no way I can read any of these.
No,
words.
I know. I'm just going to show what I was working with.
All right.
So, hold on.
Harrison, before you change to a new topic, I wanted to say that Jem and I also went back and revisited Nikki Rapana's work with an interview, and she said in the interview we listened to today that she definitely thought Hegel was an initiate, and confirmed or agreed with the same thing that you just said, that that Hegel himself is still starting with something initiatory, something occult, something adept, and so I just wanted to toss that in there.
Well, like he physically was in the company of like hung out with famous occultists in his area, and this text I was reading was saying basically he was trying to just launder esoteric ideas into the realm of intellectual philosophy. He was just kind of like philosophizing, kind of like with he was English, like physics, Principia. Isaac Newton. So Isaac Newton, they're like hanging out at Oxford, and someone's like, I've come up with calculus and all this stuff, and he's like, oh, I've already come up with that idea. And they're like, well, would you like to present your papers? And he's like, well, I haven't written them yet.
Yeah, it's all in
And
my
so,
head,
like,
right?
He goes a couple of months and he writes it all, and basically people heavily suspect that he had this all worked out in occultic terms, in like a occultic treatise, and he's like, oh, I need to adapt that for mathematical purposes because this guy's going to beat me to the punch.
Make it scholastic or academic.
Yeah. So that's kind of the read on Hegel that this piece, it's a whole book, but the foreword goes into.
Wow, so there's some other guy, I think Leibniz, right, that also invented calculus at the same time. So like they're all stealing from each other.
Right.
Sorry, go ahead.
And Leibniz was like a Hermeticist, but also like also a devoted Catholic. So I don't know what to make of him. He's kind of a strange cookie, that guy.
Well, but doesn't a lot of our science come from Jesuits anyway? For some reason?
Definitely Rosicrucians. So Jesuit, in the modern era, a lot of foundational work was done by Jesuits. I was just saying, it's funny when you look up the Royal Society, they'll be like, it was started by a group of people called the Invisible College.
Yes.
Who could those guys be? All right, now back on to my rant, my elaborate rant. So here's a Masonic tracing board. It's often noticed that this looks similar to the Kabbalistic tree because it's got the same pillars and all kinds of stuff. But you have Boaz and Yakin. I don't know what the W on this back pillar refers to. Sometimes they call the middle pillar of the tree of life the Zohar. I've seen it be given other names as well. Zohar meaning splendor, so it'd be mercy, strength, and splendor. And then at the top we have the sun, the moon, and in the middle here we have an eye, like the all-seeing eye. Usually it's a blazing star, which I'll put up here, which is 7 points. Now on Morals and Dogma, Albert Pike says the blazing star is Sirius, the morning star, the star of the dawn, Hermes, and also says it's the product of the divine triad that is the mother, son, father, mother, and son. So it's this intermediate, chaotic, energetic, transmutational energy state thing.
So Sirius and Mercury are kind of the same thing in this.
Yeah, I'm not actually. So I'll get to. I'll just bring up a Kabbalah tree of life. So
Man, that looks like my lamp too on the border. It's the same thing.
It does.
Go ahead.
So I've seen trees that diagram dot being Sirius. There in the middle, beneath the crown.
Yes.
So I'm not sure that Mercury is actually the planet Mercury, like the philosophic Mercury. I think it's distinct, despite those alchemical drawings specifically saying it's the planet Mercury.
Well, because they showed it. There was no other representation of Mercury on the that first rebus you were showing. There were that was one of the planets. It had the same kind of presentation as all the other planets, but it was in the middle of the sun and the moon. And then, because like the sun and moon were just, they looked just like the sun and the moon. And then the Mercury even had the mercurial planetary sign on it. So, I mean, they're definitely connecting them, wouldn't you say?
Oh, yes, definitely.
Right.
But it's all somehow also Albert Pike was connecting it to Lucifer.
Yeah. Well, I can see it though. Yeah, go ahead.
And then the Marmaduke article you had also said Sirius was Lucifer. No, there's better arguments to say that Lucifer and Sirius are the same figure, but I'm not going to get into that here. I'm not prepared to do that.
But what about David Bowie and what was it? Let's Dance and the Sirius Moonlight?
Oh, David Bowie wore a shirt like your lampshade in Station to Station. Which is about the Kabbalah. Station to Station are the Sephirot.
Good point. Yeah, you're right.
Keep going. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, I think I made my point. Sirius Moonlight.
All right. So with the Kabbalah, like a lot of times the Sephirot are associated with the planets. Not always. They're it's the idea, at least classically, is you have the Ein, which means nothing, which is sort of like an unapproachable, unsympathetic, ultimate God, and then you have Ein Sof R, Ein Sof, which means limitlessness, then Ein Sof R, which is limitless light, which is kind of like what we're talking about in the Hyper-Uranion being light, and then you have all these emanations going down.
Yeah.
At least in the Hermetic Kabbalah, they're associated with planets, and I've seen them associated with planets too in different schools of Jewish Kabbalah. Now, what's interesting is these planets here. If you do the typical, they call it Jacob's ladder or the lightning bolt. This pattern here actually recapitulates the classical order of the planets. So you have Earth, Moon, Venus, Mercury, Sun, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn. This one's Uranus, which would be actually the night sky, the sphere of the fixed stars. Then above that, you would have the Hyper-Uranion itself.
Crazy.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Awesome. That's awesome.
Huh.
And I was telling Sean also the reason why people use one of the reasons why the people use lightning bolt as a satanic symbol is the path through the Kabbalah. I don't know. I don't make it.
They say it's they also call it the flaming sword, like the thing that
what kicked Adam and Eve out of the garden.
You should tell us that story. I don't know. Maybe you don't want to. That was the way we ended up on discussing the artist that had that lightning bolt. That was intriguing information, Harris.
Maybe another episode.
Yeah,
I can give you my life story. Okay. Now we're gonna move a little bit from. So this is all external. This is in the heavens. Even if these aren't planets, it's still in the heavens. It's heavenly realms. We're gonna move inside the body. We're gonna take the macrocosm and stuff inside a human body, which apparently is a representation of the entire universe.
That's awesome.
I always thought it was the Masonic Lodge myself, but apparently it's a human body too. Whatever. So here's a nice diagram. Hold on. A lot of times the chakras themselves are aligned with, I don't know if this is in the picture entirely. You can kind of tell. They're like, it's equated that the chakras and the levels on the Tree of Life are equated by weird smearing. Which is kind of like the male and, well, look here, is the male and female poles, the male and female pillars, are being associated with a single chakra. So the middle have their own, and then the two extreme poles are sort of meeting in the middle. Let me see if I can get like a bunch of stuff up at once.
Okay.
Okay. So like, Malkuth being the root chakra, and then Yesod being is it sacral after that chakra, and then Yod or Hod and Nizak being put together, being the next one, the next gate, and then Beauty being the heart chakra, Tiferet, and then up like that. I'm not just. I mean, there's all sorts of graphs like this. I didn't say too many. Like, and this one I started with, this big one, is actually a Discordian 8-circuit model of the mind interpretation. If they're saying the 8-circuit model of the mind is actually a version of the Kabbalah tree and also of the chakra gates.
And that's like from a page instructing. I've seen that diagram before, and it is super Discordian. I thought that person's like teaching you sigil magic or something on that page.
No, this one. This is kind of there's like it kind of looks like a Masonic tracing board, Kabbalah tree. We have a guy with chakra gates. It equates each point to a different level on the 8-circuit model of the mind. The 8th one being this ascended dude who has the Kundalini spirit go all the way up to his brain, so he's wrapped in a snake with a wing. I don't know if you can see it.
They've got the tail in the wrong place, though.
The tail?
I'm just kidding.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, this is just a picture. I don't have the best equation of the chakra points and the Kabbalah tree. Now, what I'm trying to make here is the chakra is seen as sort of like the pathway to personal illumination.
I mean, yeah, go ahead.
Like if you sort of activate your crown chakra, which is simultaneously the name of the top Sephiroth on the tree of life. Anyway, they're both crown. If you activate your crown chakra, you're enlightened. You have like full access to your human potential.
Right.
No, I mean, supposedly all this stuff developed independently and then turned out to coincidentally be the same. I mean, the Hebrew Kabbalah and the Hindu chakra system.
I'm not saying they're the same. I'm just saying they're similar.
Well, I think they're similar enough that I'm wondering, what's the official explanation for them being, this almost the same.
They'll just be like, it's also in the Caduceus. Because you had the snakes going up, and then you got a Shemesh sun disk at the top.
Right. No, it is. You're right. It is also there. All this stuff is also everywhere, and I'm just wondering why. That's just an aside.
So with the Kundalini energy, you're supposed to, it's Kundalini means coil, like that band you talk about so much. I'm sure that's why they're called that.
Yeah. That and yeah.
So
they like snakes.
Right. So the idea is you have a energy that crawls up your spine, and then it pops through your chakra points and it gets up to your brain and you're all cool. You can read people's minds and float or whatever. And
then some people are saying you can activate that by having something go up your butt, which would go up the spine.
You can Google search Key of David and have nightmares. You know that one?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I've seen it. I've read those articles.
And we just talked about how sex magic perks up your kundalini up to your brain, sucks that sex energy right out of that lady.
Well,
from the root chakra all the way up.
The guy I was telling you about earlier, Harrison, who is he, Jim? The astrologer, flat earthist, Santo Bonacci. Same thing. His instructions essentially lead to that as the core teaching, that you can get the gold and silver fluids that start at the base of your spine. You have to not ejaculate, like you said, if you're a man. Time everything with the moon, and they'll both arrive, and that's the promised land.
Christ fluids.
The Christ fluid comes to the temple.
In the Egyptian Book of Medicine, they have the brain, spine, and testicles are a continuous semen system, and it comes from your brain.
Yeah.
The crown and its rays of light. I mean, some people think, that's really what that's supposed to represent, is this eruption that happens when you're being ritually sodomized to make this actually happen.
Yeah, and they say that opens your ajna or third eye, which is actually the sixth chakra, not the seventh, because the seventh is above your head.
Right.
Right. Well, presumably it would open all of them.
Oh yeah, it'd go all the way up. I'm just saying the idea of psychic powers, or why the reason why they do that is the idea that it awakens psychic powers, and that's associated with the ajna, sixth, third eye chakra.
Now, I think that this must be totally true, or at least that people are practicing this with that intent, because I've found several symbolic representations of it since then in Western esoteric stuff and also in Egyptian stuff, supposedly ancient Egyptian stuff. And one of the places where I think that this is almost overtly represented is there's a Kenneth Anger movie. I think it's the first one he did, where they're I think it's called Fireworks. Okay, and a guy gets raped by a bunch of dudes in I think a restroom, and then at the end they show him with they show him with these a crown of well, that's why it's called Fireworks. That's why the movie is called that is because you can see these, electrical things going around his head, kind of like a halo at the end. And he kind of actually looks satisfied at the end of the movie. First he was getting raped and beaten up and he was unhappy, but then at the end he gets the halo. And he's like, this is kind of nice.
And then what I was just thinking with the OTO, you go from 9th to 11th and you have your sodomic orgy or whatever, and you cross the abyss. So that kind of correlates with the secret Sephira, the tree of life dot, right? So if that were the 10th, if the 11 degrees represented the Sephirot with dot, and basically crossing the abyss is often a metaphor used when they're talking about dot in Kabbalah. So I wonder if that's why the OTO degrees are set up like that.
Interesting.
I don't know. Someone who knows could tell us, but then they would probably get killed for telling us.
The light on top of the head makes me think of the outpouring of the Holy Spirit and the speaking in tongues by the apostles. That it's the Shekinah glory, or there's another name for it. I can't think of the.
I saw a Catholic picture today of some saint, and he had a fire right here.
Yeah. That's so. Yeah. So maybe what we're talking about with the whole ritual sodomy thing is like the as above, so below of that. That's the left-handed version. So that if you're on the righteous path, you get the crown illuminated. You can understand every language. You can speak and be understood in every language. And if you do it completely in the opposite, then you're enlightened. In a hellish way or more evil way
And I think literally this is what as above, so below is. You have personal enlightenment, which is reflected by progress through the chakra system, and then you have supernal, heavenly, cosmic enlightenment or development, which is represented as progress through the Kabbalistic tree.
Right.
Now, can I point out something in regards to Catholic priests? Poop isn't food, except when it is. And the
except when it is.
The host, the sacred wafers. Okay, so you know how the sometimes you'll see represented on top of a pyx, or just in Catholic iconography generally, you'll see a representation of the of Jesus, I guess, and the spirit going into the consecrated host, and so you'll see the letters IHS to represent Jesus plus the cross.
Right.
Those are, okay, take the cross as the letter T. Those are the letters that spell something for feces.
That's true. That's the Jesuit symbol with the nails.
Oh, man.
Wow.
So it's always shit.
Okay, now this next section we're kind of pumping up the crazy, but I have quite a bit of references, so.
We'll wind it down. We'll try to settle down here. Sorry.
No, it's okay. So we're talking about, there's the idea of personal enlightenment or development reflected in esoteric schools. It's kind of the entire idea behind having grades and even hiding things from initiates until you get to higher levels. So there's that idea of perfection as you increase your esoteric knowledge, or in alchemy, there's all sorts of metaphors as for your personal development. Some even think that the Philosopher's Stone, searching for the Philosopher's Stone, is reaching your highest potential. So there's an idea in the occult of you have surrogate spirits that act on your behalf in the cosmic realm. So you may know this as most commonly known as Holy Guardian Angel in OTO or Thyma.
Oh yes.
Okay. And we have other ones in Greek mythology. There's Eudaimon, which means good demon. More modern esotericists say that this is associated with the HGA, as well as the term Agatha demon. So there was the god Agatha demon, which is thought to be the direct emanation of Zeus or something, sometimes described as a serpent.
Mm-hmm.
But generally speaking, they're just considered personal companion spirits that you kind of palled around with,
Yeah, Agatha demon was kind of used as a symbol for good luck, I think, and thought of as a little friend that would bring you some good luck.
Like a Pikachu.
Some other some other terms for this concept is higher self, you see, causal body, solar body, luminous body, that the Theosophists use luminous body. So I'm going to read you a little quotation from Helena Petrovna Blavatsky. She says, "The most substantial difference consisted in the location of the immortal or divine spirit of man. While the ancient Neoplatonists held that Ago Aedes never descends hypostatically into the living man, but only more or less sheds its radiance on the inner man, the Astroso, the Kabbalists of the Middle Ages, maintained that the spirit, detaching itself from the ocean of light and spirit, entered into man's soul, where it remained through life in prison in the astral capsule." So, and the Ago Aedes is this sort of idea from Iamblichus that you have a surrogate spirit that like represents yourself in the cosmos.
Okay. Now, isn't this in regards to the OTO HGA concept? Isn't that sort of the demon that overtakes you when you kill your ego when you go through the
Sorry?
I thought like basically the Karanzan is like the chaos, that monster that would eat you if you failed the test.
Oh yeah, but I was reading it was saying you'd make a holy guardian angel if you failed.
Okay. Yeah, I'm confused about it a little bit, but
if An American is here, he might know. If An American's still in the chat, he might know. And doesn't the term Holy Guardian Angel predate OTO? I thought it came from the Golden Dawn, or maybe even before that.
No, it's from Abram Ellen.
There we go. Yeah, Book of Abramelin. There we go.
Yeah, the whole thing's about ritual purifying yourself to interact with your Holy Guardian Angel.
Because that's I just found out about the guy Leith. I don't remember his first name, or Leech, Leitch, but he supposedly completed the Abramelin working. So what you conjure all the demons, defeat them all, and then invite your holy guardian angel to live inside your head. And he's actually done it.
That's where we're going.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, I wasn't using the word demon as a negative connotation. I was just saying that the HDA is the thing that is supposed to replace your ego during that process, right?
Right. So, pretty similar to that, yeah.
Very correct.
Carry on.
Okay. So,
thank you.
Here's another quotation. This is going to be from Jung. He says, "There's no such thing as eudaemons or kakodemons, but just daemons, which are unique, independent spirits, neither good or bad, living in everyone." Okay. Now we're going to talk about Jung. He had a spirit that lived in him called Philemon. Remember?
Yeah.
Pretty weird.
Forgot about that.
That's strange. Socrates had a spirit living in him called Daemonion. Kind of interesting. Elron had his guardian. He like hypnotized himself. He's like, I can go look that up. You know about this?
No.
L. Ron Hubbard's self-hypnosis. He's goodness gracious.
Yeah, what?
A
Occult fan dropped a pretty good Elron link on Twitter the other day, talking about him and Jack Parsons and their whole shit show.
Nothing can intervene between you and your guardian. She cannot be displaced because she is too powerful. She does not control you. She advises you. And then here, these are like hypnotic suggestions he's feeding himself in this work called Affirmations. And he says, "I believe in my gods and spiritual things, that my magical works are powerful and effective, that you are psychic. The most thrilling thing in your life is your love and consciousness of your guardian. You can talk with her and audibly hear her voice above all others."
And that's Elron, you said.
That's Elron.
Yeah.
Here's another guy. You know Philip K. Dick?
Yep.
He's supposedly completely taken over spiritually by Valis, right?
Right.
And she like controlled his movements and like everything he said.
The pink light.
And then here's some other examples. This is not as drastic as that. Like Crowley had Rahur Kuit, or Aiwas. There's a spirit medium.
Alice Bailey had Dwarkul.
Dracul, yeah. And then Knight, this is the guy behind the What the Bleep Do We Know movie. I don't know if you ever saw that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they believe that there's like So the main guy, Knight, he has a spirit being called Ramtha.
It's a woman.
Oh, right. Sorry.
Yes.
I was thinking about allegations of sexual abuse, and I was like, oh, it's a man. But, that's just programming.
That's
Yeah,
just
that's
2019.
we're in Washington State. That's in Yelm, Washington. They have a commune there, and they're well known in the area.
Field trip.
Right. So, yeah, and then there's all sorts of New Age stuff with, like, cultivating your inner wise man and all that stuff, and the Ascended Masters, Great White Brotherhood and all that. Asking people to live in your head. What I'm getting at is...
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, please. I need to bring a picture up, so go ahead.
Oh, I know that they supposedly they would have people pay them, thousands of dollars to go on a retreat there to learn specifically how to manifest reality. So
that's magic.
So I read one of the stories was like that you were supposed to manifest a feather with your mind, and so this is an anecdote from one of the people that was there. Quit it, Kenny. Stop. The anecdote is, okay, you're supposed to manifest a feather and make it just appear. And so this person tried day after day after day and failed to manifest a feather until, I think it was a woman, she finally left the commune, got in her car, drove down to a local store and managed to find a feather that was for sale there and brought it back. Like, a decorative feather. Brought it back and said, here, I manifested a feather. And they said, yeah, you did it, great. And they were like, they knew exactly what she had done. But that was the whole point. It was like, figure out some way of doing it. And
manifest by 4 quarters and by asking for change.
When you were learning how to manifest things, you're supposed to be farming. And like they have a farm, and you're supposed to, make your own food. It's like all these commune cults. Like a lot of times they'll make the people farm, and it always, it always ends up badly because a lot of times that'll be the only thing they're allowed to eat, and then they don't do too well at the farming, and so
Yeah.
They have to manifest their own food. And
exactly. Well, anyway, it seems like a great way of demanifesting thousands of dollars and lifetime.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go back to this Discordian drawing we have, showing the 7th chakra as a little spooky demon face.
Okay.
Little spooky guy, and then down here it shows the highest level of the 8th circuit model as a guy with a snake coiled up to past his head. I have a reading from Ledbetter, Secret Life of Freemasonry. He talks about how in the different degrees, as you increase in the degree in Freemasonry, he talks about how it just increases your Kundalini, right? Your Kundalini circuit. And he says that there's a female and male current in the Kundalini. That's what each snake represents. Going up your spine. Until you reach a culmination point. I believe it's the 18th degree, which is the Rose Cross or whatever. Rose Crucis or whatever it is. I don't know. The 18th degree is Scottish, right?
Right. I think you're right.
It's Rosicrucian in some regard. Then he starts talking about angels or devas will start talking to you, and then you get, that's the end of white masonry. Then you start black masonry, and then you get up to the 30th level, Knights Kadosh I was talking about earlier, and then you get it says, let me see if I can find it. It's like a different level of angel will begin talking to you and whispering things in your ear regarding the secrets of the universe and all that.
Wow.
I can find direct quotations, but this is the page it's on, at least.
I had never heard of this.
I mean, of course, Ledbetter isn't the authority on all Freemasonry. He's a theosophical kook, but he's linking Kundalini with increasing and initiation, and of course, I have a quote from Albert Pike. Give me a second. This is from Morals and Dogma.
Harrison, are you aware of the accusations against Ledbetter?
You posted some sort of link about pedophile accusations.
Yeah, there's a good.
I don't know.
There's a good broadcast about it. I'll dump it in the Discord. A lady did a good overview of Theosophy, and she covers it in there. But yeah, that's it. That he was grooming Krishnamurti to become the Atreyu Messiah by sexual perversion with children. So, but go ahead with the quote, please.
Key of David or whatever. Okay, so here's the reading from the Morals and Dogma. It says, Masonry is a search after light. That search led us directly back, as you see, to the Kabbalah.
Harrison?
Yes?
Oh, sorry. I thought you dropped off there.
No, I did not. So what I'm asserting here is I think, and I don't have all the sources, but there's some level of initiation where you cross some kind of abyss and you're united with some kind of spiritual being, imagined or otherwise. Maybe it's a tulpa, maybe it's a vril worm, as you've discussed before. It's a snake in your head. I don't know.
It seems like it could be almost anything if you're open to it. Like if you getting rid of your ego, you're leaving a vacancy there for something to fill. Right?
Right.
So like it seems like a crucial moment there, right, when your ego dies, that you better hope you're able to get the thing that you want in there instead of something else.
And there's people nowadays who take high dosages of psychedelics specifically for the purpose of experiencing ego death.
Yeah, heroic dose.
Well, does anyone here think that they've experienced that?
I kind of did in like a near-death experience, but it wasn't like total. It was just. I'm not gonna get into that right now.
Yeah, I can't say I was always really careful taking hallucinogens, not to very intentionally not take a heroic dose. I know lots of people that did, and they do always allege kind of a similar, like I'd say that and the ayahuasca DMT experiences are all kind of similar places, like where you become disembodied enough to either feel like you're like you've become one with everything, or that you cross over and talk to sentience that expounds things for you, corrects you, advises you, chastises you. I mean, that's a...
Right. And I'm kind of getting to the end of my rant here, but it's kind of identifying what the Magnum Opus is. Because we kind of have the purpose of initiation on the individual level of self-perfection. And the Magnum Opus is something like a much larger version of that. So I was talking about the HGA being like a surrogate spirit for you, right?
Right.
Yes.
And I was kind of saying, something lives in your head, but I think the idea is it's like a supernal version of yourself. It's described, a heavenly version. So. And it's often described, as I said, like the solar body, like it's moving amongst the planets. So I think this is sort of like the macrocosmic ascent through the spheres. Basically, you increase your own energy potential through initiation or whatever. As you're doing this, you're sort of allied with a spirit that's going up through the archons, up to heaven.
Okay.
This is the impression I have, and by crossing the archons, you bridge the gap between heaven and earth.
So you can do exactly what Mithras supposedly did.
Correct. Yeah, as I said, like the idea of Mithras is like, because as I said, there are old hymns where worshippers were threatening the gods, like, I will storm heaven and take you down, like, which is like the Tower of Babel.
Yeah, exactly. Well, isn't that the reason why we have a flaming sword, is to keep that from happening?
Yes. And so the flaming sword is what blocks you from heaven, and the entire course of the Kabbalah, because it kind of goes down. The lightning flash, as it's shown. I guess sometimes it's shown as like a snake going up, but I don't know what that means.
Well, there's Golden Dawn rituals where they specifically talk about getting into the supernal Eden, and they describe it as being analogous to the Holy of Holies in Solomon's temple. So it's like this little realm of the gods that I get the impression of it being small, or having the appearance of being small in relation to the creation that came out of it. but it's being preserved as, you know, this special perfect piece of the original creation.
Like the foundation stone thing?
Yeah, like the cornerstone of the temple.
Right. And so if the personal part of initiation or esoteric practice is personal perfection by entering heaven, by ritual practice and you've described things like star bathing or like ritually killing the archons. In some Gnostic schools, you just like know certain passwords to get past the archons when you die. However that is, the Magnum Opus, I think, is getting everyone to do it.
Everyone in the whole world, you mean?
Or getting the world to do it, which is to say, bridging the gap between heaven and earth.
And that's why that's potentially why they're putting us all through ritual initiation in every single opportunity they can. You know, whether you're watching the Lego movie or coincidentally surfing on. Yeah, like Jim and I found a thread the other day, or I found it and shared it with Jim, where they show how Super Mario on the Nintendo 64 is a full-blown initiation ritual. Like, it's, you know, starting from the beginning, everything we've just talked about, you know, like.
So even if someone else is doing this to you, they still want you to go along with the process in some way. Like it could be they're transforming the whole world physically, and yet they need the people to also participate spiritually.
I'm not. Yeah, there's the commonly talked about like consent angle where like people have to voluntarily go along with what's going on, and that if standing against it is enough, I don't know. And I don't know if it's necessary. People need to know what the mysteries are, or if we're just kind of like along for a ride on a big ritual to collapse the pillars, as you've put it in the past. But that's what I think the Magnum Opus is, and that's why I think people are so motivated and infiltrating all sorts of institutions, and there's fingerprints all over pop culture, and why there's such a bigger drive is basically to collapse the universe and recreate it in someone's image, as you alluded to before with like John Dee.
So yeah, so like for years we, you know, if you study the cult as an outsider, you get the vibe that, you know, they don't want you reading their stuff if you're not one of them, and you know that it's necessary for them to keep their secrets from the public, from the profane, because, you know, otherwise we would ruin it somehow. But at this point in the work, that's when they're willing to do that, willing to initiate everyone, because they need that, because for some reason that's part of the whole plan. Interesting.
Well, I remember I don't remember if it's in the book Externalization of the Hierarchy. That's Alice Bailey, isn't it? Or is it the other?
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's Alice.
It's either that book or another one. She describes that when they do it, when they finally bring everything out and kind of put it on parade, so to speak, that it's going to be through the church, through the Masonic lodges, and through academia.
Yep.
And so, I mean, I'd say we're definitely seeing a hell of a lot more of that now than we've ever seen in the past, in my opinion. You know, it didn't used to be out like this, you know.
You know, so I've been describing to the Plus Ultra audience how Yellow Submarine seems like it's about this concept of transforming the whole world through an alchemical transformation and starting a new universe. And this, what you're just describing, makes sense with what is portrayed in that movie, because towards the end, they kind of, you know, the Beatles or the Lonely Hearts Club Band, they play some music that wakes up all the people in this realm that have been seemingly asleep, like they're in a somewhat monochromatic world ruled by the evil blue meanies, and they're alive, but they're just standing there kind of still like statues, and the music wakes them up. And so I wonder if that's what's going on, is like we need to be woken up now to complete the transformation.
And that's what they keep telling everyone, that you have to get woke. How red-pilled are you? Or, you know, I'm out here trying to wake people up. You know, you hear this kind of cliche stuff in the conspiracy realm all the time, that, you know, that like pathetic infighting. Either you're trying to wake people up or you're accusing everyone of being a shill. You know, like that's the...
So they need to throw the sea monkeys in the water. And that's what we are.
Yeah.
Wake up, sheeple.
They're turning the freaking frogs gay!
So this is totally meta right now, because we're like, hey, wake up! Did you know that they're trying to get you to wake up so that they can transform you?
Well, one of the bases of me deciding to do this talk was I was like, we're kind of operating like a secret society. Like, we have like all these weird things you got to like read and figure out. It's like, why don't I just tell them up front really easily? I don't know. Not to say that like you aren't trying to do that, but that was like my idea. I was like, we should probably really shouldn't operate like a secret society.
Yeah, go remind everyone that there's a foundation stone here. If you missed it, or you weren't, you know, you haven't been touching every facet of the foundation stone, Harrison came tonight to be like, all right, let's get back to basics, just like playing a musical instrument or writing a nice paragraph. We're going to use the core elements of this stuff. And I mean, the reason we're all here is because we can't get away from the idea of finding more truth and quote unquote waking ourselves up a little bit more. I mean, like, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, but what else are we doing, right? We want to take all of the frayed loose ends or the missing pieces, find them, and get them back into the puzzle, so that we have the big picture, if not at least some more complete pictures.
It's even practical. As I said in the Discord, I used this information to determine an English pub run by esotericists, cultists.
Yeah. Yeah,
it's crazy.
Where was it? Was that?
It was in St. Louis.
That's right. Yeah, yeah. You dropped that picture. And
yeah,
it was.
What pub are we talking about here?
It's called Three Kings, which already has a sort of.
It's got like an elm and a lion and like a whole bunch of stuff.
It's a 3 and then a lion head and a crown, but it's basically the outline of an Om symbol.
Wow.
Yeah, and I joked to Harrison that, you know, they're going to get the spirits into your head, first into your gut and then up to your head.
Yeah, and then so the Om is a symbol of the Sahasrara, or the crown chakra, because they're assigned like I forget what that script is called, like Hindu symbols for each level.
Yeah.
I have some other stuff I can talk about, but this is basically the big linear thing I wanted to get out.
No, this is
great. We're impressed. I mean, that's amazing. You really tied everything up.
I'm going to end with this picture just because I like it.
Okay.
For you.
I don't know. I was wondering if you're familiar with it, because it looks like a lot of things you've put out.
Oh, I've seen this, yes.
You know what that's from?
No, but I've found it. I forget where I found it.
Okay.
Do you know where it's from?
No, it was just on my computer. I may have got it from you. I don't know.
Yeah. I think I used it in an illustration for the fake news article.
Okay.
But then when I republished it, a lot of the pictures I haven't put back up yet. But yeah, it illustrates the Ouroboros guy being bent backwards.
Right. So that's the body, that's deadish body of heaven, or like what is called heaven, the realm of the fixed stars, the firmament, stony vault of heaven.
Yeah, have you've seen the Manly P. Hall depiction of that, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So go ahead.
And it reminds me of like Aleister Crowley being like, "Oh, when we die, we'll become stars." Right.
Yes. So you become the
celestial
Ouroboros
spheres.
zodiac.
Yeah.
I've
locked
seen
inside of a little ball.
I've seen it overlaid over the zodiacal chart, the zodiac chart.
Yeah, because it would be the realm of the fixed stars, the body of Uranus.
So yeah, he's called the Zodiac Man in some instances, or the Perfect Man.
Okay.
And that makes sense too. Okay, with the idea that castration is perfection. He's castrated.
Right.
He was castrated by Saturn. So creepy though that Jeffrey Dahmer put one of his victims this way. And then John Podesta's brother collected a statue that looks just like it.
Bourgeois. What's her name? What's your last name? Maurice Bourgeois? I don't know.
Oh, the artist?
It's something Bourgeois, yeah. She has a lot of... She's kind of like a creepy lady.
Definitely. Creepy lady.
Yeah, Harrison dropped another... Once again, to reference the Discord, he dropped a link to a blog that is called Swordfish, and it was much more flowing and comprehensive than most of the weird stuff that you'd find, connecting lots of artists and other similar people and occultists all to the James Elefantis stuff. So it's really good.
And the pharmaceutical industry.
That's right. Yeah. It was a really long, extensive read. I mean, I even used that little speed reading app, and I think I only made it 2/3 of the way, and then I just came back and like scanned the end to make sure I didn't really miss anything juicy. There was a lot of examples of art and locations, like a lot of photography. It was good.
I'm trying to find the Manly P. Hall book. I'd like to show it. Or, I mean, the picture.
Is it in Secret Teaching?
Yeah.
Let me bring it up.
And yeah...
Because there's like a depiction of meat and Zeus in this whole picture, and the pillars, the fire and water. It's very complete.
Santo Bonacci, once again, if you look up his chart, it's got a beautiful chart, like it's a correlation, reference, correspondence of everything with that same man bending towards the back thing. And here, I'll jump back over here to you, Harrison.
And also, did you mention the artwork in what's his name's house? It's like
Tony Podesta?
Tony Podesta.
Yeah.
I'll find it here. I'm pretty sure I know at least one place I can find it. And I'm sorry if I'm not providing content here.
Oh no, we're fine.
Well, that's on. I can get into all kinds of stuff. I mean, I have a thing on like how seraphim are dragons.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'd love to hear a little bit about that. Sure.
Okay. So there's a Swedish guy. I have his name at the bottom of the outline. He's Othmar Kiel, I believe. Cannot get an online copy of this book, but it's called Yahweh Visionen und Siegelkunst. Basically, it's about early Israelite artwork and drawing and depiction of different kind of divinities like cherubim and seraphim and other things like that. And it seems pretty early because it looks very derivative of Egyptian art. But the interesting thing is the seraphim are exclusively drawn as winged snakes, which may be inherited from Egyptian royal guards of the gods. They were shown as winged snakes.
Wow.
And then also with the Egyptians, they have the urias, on the head, the snake. Which might have something to do with snakes on your head, as we talked about today. Even Phanes had a snake on his head, going up his body.
Hey guys, I have to remove myself for a minute. The cat is puking on my bed, so I'll be.
Yeah. Oh. Okay. So also let's say in the Bible, you have the venomous serpents, they're called, in I think it's in Exodus, when the Jews are the 40 years in the wilderness before they get to Israel.
Yeah.
They're attacked, and they have to bring up the brazen serpent.
Yep.
So the words there are Seraphim Nahashim, I believe, which means fiery snakes. And that's usually translated as venomous snakes, like, it burns with pain, fire.
Right.
It's poison. Now, Isaiah recalls that event, and he calls them flying seraphim.
Wow,
But people are like, yo, that's talking about cobras. They got wings.
The coincidence and/or the way that they try and explain stuff away, it's like, well, maybe not. Maybe it's not them. That the presumption that everyone in the past, that like ancient languages are like dumb, you know, like, oh, they just tried to come up with like the worst metaphor, you know. A cobra's a flying snake because their neck kind of looks like wings, so that must be what it meant. Like, no, that's not good enough for me.
Right, but I believe it's flying seraphs. So the word snake does not appear, but they're like, well, they're the snakes that they're talking about. And then saraf means burning. That's why the angels are called that, because they're made of Empyrean fire,
right?
The things of heaven. Now, what else? Oh, in the Book of Enoch, right? At points it will say, the first Enoch, you'll say seraphim and cherubim. Other times it'll say serpents and cherubim.
Yeah, I remember that. I've studied it quite a bit. It's been a while, so I'm kind of rusty, but I think I'm going to go back and start reading Enoch again.
And then some apocryphal books. This is Apocalypse of Abraham. I believe this is Yahuel, who's just Joel, the name Joel. He's an angel. He's talking to Abraham, and he's talking about the works of like evil, and he calls them the threats and attacks of the reptiles. But that kind of goes along with like demonic beings being snakes. And then also in another apocryphal book, it's the Amram, like Apocalypse of Amram, I believe. Testament of Amram. So this guy's given a vision of the Watchers, and he says they have a visage like a viper.
Makes me think of the whole reptilian thing too, you know. Like, yeah, right? I mean, to be as cliche as we can be, bring it full circle and be like, oh man, David Icke was right.
Oh yeah, the thing about David Icke, he says like there's like a Saturn-Moon conjunction, which is like the highest planet, and then the lowest luminary. And this is like how like our matrix reality is projected or something. I'm not a Gnostic. I don't believe everything David Icke says, but that just has something to do with the archons being at the highest luminary and the lowest one.
Yeah, that's it's a pretty common thing to theorize that that we're getting some kind of signal beamed from Saturn. You know, that's where the control tractor beam from the Saturn's the Death Star, and that's the laser that's keeping us all under a spell.
The lightning bolt.
But there's serpent worship and whatnot all over the earth, and you have all kinds of flying snakes, and these things are often represented as celestial beings. So I just think it may help in some elaboration or analysis of like these occult images. You have often we used to see dragons as like chaos beings, or representations of chaos before the creation of the earth, but like they could also be referencing sort of like spiritual beings that are purported by the authors to be channeled or something like that. I just think it's interesting to note.
Yeah, it's a good thing, I think, to always add more new references so that you're not always just thinking like, you think dragon, and we're pretty limited in what we imagine a dragon to be. Even if you're taking it out of the fairy tale sense, you're still pretty limited. So I like that idea to add that, like, well, maybe not. Maybe they're talking about, it makes me think of the Indian gods, you know, with their whole array of serpents around their heads.
Yeah, those are cool.
You know, that it represents something to do with the third eye and or the crown chakra, that it has to do with enlightenment, kind of like that little guy that was in your Discordian reference that you kept coming back to, you know.
Right. I have a picture up of a seraph right here.
Yeah.
This is from that book. This is Hebrew art. Kind of interesting.
So and that makes me think of I don't remember if I learned it in the Adventist church. I had a friend who went to the Adventist church, and I would attend with him sometimes, but they there's more than one reference to the serpent before he's cursed and before the fall being a winged creature like that, and then part of his curse is that he loses his wings and has to go on his belly. So
you could look at that as being unable to go back and forth as he pleases to heaven or something like that.
Right. I like to think of I keep thinking of that TV show Stargate, where they had the serpent sort of thing that they'd put it inside their stomach, and it would give them intelligence as a sort of a symbiotic relationship.
Oh, I guess I haven't seen that.
The Gould.
Yeah. Yeah, we talked about some drill worms earlier, if you're familiar with that idea.
Yeah. That definitely
That
makes
ties
me think of it.
With the left eye stuff, too.
There's the Ophite Bowl.
There's the Ophite Bowl with your flying serpent right there in the middle.
I wrote a song lyric about that bowl because of Tracy. Thank you, Tracy, for inspiring me to write music. I appreciate that.
Oh, wow. You know what's weird is that, that bowl is sometimes labeled the Orphic Bowl, too, and they can't seem to decide whether it was the Ophites or the Ophic.
Well, there is actually an Orphic bowl that you can see that it is positively Orphic. It looks very similar. It does not have a flying serpent in the middle. It's not carved out like this. It's not a relief. It's like the Greek, I don't know, like the pottery where it's like stained black. I don't know what that's called.
Well, that's a line drawing of a real bowl, the original bowl in the book. I remember.
Right, and I can talk about Chapel Perilous. Is anyone familiar with this concept?
I am.
No, I don't think so. Please go ahead.
So who came up with it? It was you have Timothy Leary of the Eighth Circuit Mind, and then you have this Discordian guy. Well, he's not necessarily Discordian. The Discordians call him a bishop, episcopos, but he. Give me one moment, right here. He came up with it in a book called Cosmic Trigger. It is
Robert Anton Wilson.
Yeah.
And so this idea actually plugs into that one weird graph I had of the chakra system, the Kabbalah, and the Eighth Circuit model. So that's kind of idea of the cosmic trigger plays into whoever made that graph. It's kind of all of these ideas that's being expressed in the cosmic trigger. But so Chapel Perilous comes from Grail lore of like a destination that's dangerous and uncertain. Sometimes it's a starting off point, sometimes it's a destination. It's being said in the Cosmic Trigger that Chapel Perilous is once you get to a certain level in the Eighth Circuit model, or you could say in like initiation or spiritual development or something, you go to a place that's entirely unfamiliar, and you may not like leave as the same person you entered.
In the Grail lore, wasn't this the place where the Siege Perilous was too, with the chair that would fall apart if someone who wasn't the Grail hero sat in it? Maybe I'm wrong.
I don't. You're probably right. I have not read the book. I just read quite a bit about it. I was first turned on to this idea because James Alefantis, one of the movies he produced is called Chapel Perilous, and like some guy, he goes to like, he shows up at what looks like a timeshare seminar, and this guy's like, oh, here's the caduceus and like symbols of Rebus and stuff. You know, it's like kind of the stuff we went over today. And then so this guy goes home, and all of a sudden he has like demon horns. He's like, where'd these demon horns come from? Why am I demonic now? And like, so James Alefantis produced this movie that's like 10 minutes long, and it was called Chapel Perilous. So I looked into it, and it reminds me a lot of the Abyss in OTO.
So only 10 minutes
saying
long.
the concept of Chapel Perilous reminds you of that?
Not from the Grail lore, but as expressed in Cosmic Trigger.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and as one author later, not Robert Anton Wilson, says it's the place souls go when they die, which I probably just are reading into it. But basically, the idea is it's a spiritual place you visit, and you don't come back the same way as you entered, and you can go mad from going there.
And in the Alefantis produced movie, I remember that they spliced in scenes of Moses parting the waters, and I think they also had the Nehushtan in it, the serpent on the pole.
He has 3 movies, so I can't remember if that's in Chapel Perilous or not. His 3 movies he produced.
I think it is.
Okay, I don't. That's interesting.
Because when the guy comes over to his house to try to sell him something or whatever's going on, the main character ends up having this kind of psychedelic vision, and it includes all these snippets of things. So it seems like he put in a scene from the Charlton Heston Moses movie, but then they added some stuff to it. I'll have to watch it again, but yeah, that's what I recall.
Right. And I was kind of struck with the idea of he was initiated basically, and he comes out and he's like changed.
Yes.
Spiritually, and that was kind of why I was thinking this is similar to the Abyss and like acquiring this holy guardian angel spirit thing.
Mm-hmm.
This is just another example I forgot to bring up in my analysis, but it's interesting.
Does anybody remember if it was in Blood Meridian? It seems that's popping into my head. And have you guys read that book? Pretty sure that's what it's called, Blood Meridian. It's Cormac McCarthy.
I have not read it.
It's be warned if you're gonna consider reading it. It's like really dark and atrocious. Like it's like a kind of the ultimate like dark black cowboys and Indians. Like these American men all go out. It's like from the old West days, but it's supposed to be like a Gnostic, like a parallel Gnostic Bible. Like there's this character called the Judge who's kind of like the demiurge, but it seems like either that is in the book or at least the concept is, because it's just like my brain's just firing off like that book just popped into my head, you know, having this conversation. So maybe I'll have to go back and look. So. It's a great book, but it's because it's really deep and philosophical, but it is super dark. I mean, like real violent rape, murder, babies hanging dead from trees, and all kinds of horrible things. So if you're not okay with that kind of stuff, I mean, I'd say it's even darker than your scenes in Genuflect. Believe it or not, you know.
Have you read the other one, the Illuminatus Trilogy?
I've not read any of it. But
I have.
I know about giant Eris, like stomping on people at the end.
Yeah, Eris is in it, and there's a submarine. It's a yellow submarine.
Yep, the yellow submarine's in there.
Right. And it's like they're the Bavarian Illuminati in modern times. This is what I barely remember because I was a teenager when I read it, and I haven't dipped into it since. But I seem to remember, like they're basically doing Hegelian dialectic on everyone. They're agitating both sides to make them fight in order to create some kind of societal change.
That's exactly, yeah. It's a total like sarcastic joke, total Discordian humor joke of exactly what you just said. You know, they keep like they get these guys in and then they confuse them as to whether or not they're definitely in, and then once they're confused they have them do something and they think they've done the right thing, and then they say, oh no, we did that on purpose. You know, it's like the quadruple double reverse upside down trickery through the whole book, and it never ends. I mean, it's...
Tracy, I have a question. This is kind of off the wall. Did you finish the Twin Peaks series? Like with the new episodes?
It's strange that you should ask. I actually fell asleep watching the last episode and of the new series, so I never got to finish the very last episode.
I was curious about the tulpas being spiritual, like a spiritual homunculus.
Mm-hmm.
Is that like that's not normally with the idea of a tulpa, right? I mean, I guess you like create it in your head. That's the idea.
Right. So, I think it could be analogous that way. It's just that, you know, it's anything that you create and bring to life. But, yeah, a tulpa could be more general, whereas a homunculus is definitely a humanoid type creature.
Because I was doing research, I was trying to find, for this, I was trying to find examples of a tulpa having independent existence of the person who crafts it.
Mm-hmm.
I was wondering if like, David Lynch took that from some idea expressed elsewhere.
I don't know if he did. And other than David Lynch mentioning it, I can't think of any other like mainstream artwork that has mentioned tulpas, but they were hinted at in Yellow Submarine because they have things that look just like the way a tulpa was illustrated by Annie Besant when she drew the Music of Ganud, which was a image of a music tulpa coming out of a cathedral. So
yeah, it does look like Yellow Submarine, like the
little flowers that pop up at the end of the movie.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I'm familiar with that.
So, but yeah, I don't know when people started talking about tulpas, except I think like, you know, people on 4chan were talking about them.
Yeah.
Yeah, people were trying to make a tulpa to, like, I don't know, like have sex with or something. Who knows? Or like be their friend.
Yeah, I dropped a great infographic about it for Jacob in the Discord chat. You might have to go way back to the beginning of the memes and pics for that one, but it's really hilarious. Like, it's the iceberg meme where you've got the tip of the iceberg, and as you graduate down, and like you get to the bottom, and it's just like, what? Like, it's like you just kind of lose yourself. But do they actually mention and say the word tulpas? I haven't. Me and my girlfriend are rewatching Twin Peaks from the beginning, inspired by Occult Fan, because he recommended a book. We listen to the audio while we're working in the kitchen, and then we'll go watch some more episodes of the original Twin Peaks. But I haven't gotten to the new. Is this only in the new one?
Yeah, it's only in the new one.
Okay. Did they say tulpa?
Yeah, there's tulpa. They mentioned tulpas, and there's characters that are described as being tulpas, and it's as though they are doppelgangers that have come out of the Black Lodge and come to physical life. And they actually, I mean, I don't know, how much do you want me to spoil this for you? But
No,
it's like,
I'm not worried about this spoiler. To me, it just sounds like Lynch has certainly not given up on his concept of completely convoluting everything to the point where you're not sure if you're sitting in your living room watching a movie or if the movie is sitting inside of you watching your living room. You know, like Mulholland Drive, like the whole scary monster behind the dumpster turns the key, and it's like, then you just feel like did I get dosed? What happened? Like, all the actresses changed their hair color and all the, you know, like, what the hell? And it's like he does it in every movie. Like, he can't get away from the idea of confusing everyone with it. To me, it's like he's making fun of soap operas. That's what I always think of it as. But
I think he keeps coming back to the idea of the Supernal Eden.
Yep.
Because it's like the Black Lodge is this little world where you can do things that manipulate the outer reality. And it's the same thing with the lady in the radiator in Eraserhead. It's the same thing. You got the same thing in Mulholland Drive also, with multiple realities.
Yep.
And being able to slip through. And then there's this one, I'm trying to remember the name of it, but they have the little rabbits that like live in like mouse holes in the floorboards and stuff, or underneath the floorboards and in the walls.
I might not have seen that one.
Trying to remember what the name of it is. I'm sure
Inland Empire?
Inland Empire, yes.
Oh, is that Lynch too?
They're like humans dressed as rabbits.
So that's like, they're showing Hollywood again, just like in Mulholland Drive, but they're showing like the, you know, the behind the scenes manipulation of that reality taking place, I think, with this hidden reality that's shown as being occupied by these little rabbits.
Yeah, and it's in Dark or Lost Highway too. I'm trying to remember what. I remember there being something like that, or at least the Mystery Man. It may not be like redundant, but the Mystery Man scene in Lost Highway, is it Robert Blake or no?
Yeah.
Yeah, he comes and he like insists that he's at the main character's house, and so he calls and he's at the house and he's standing there talking to him at the same time. Like, it's really really surreal and weird, but it's a similar concept still. I love David Lynch. You guys want to hear a funny story about David Lynch?
Of course.
Okay, so like there's me and my buddy. He was in college in Spokane, Washington, and that's where David Lynch is from. And I had heard, actually, I had been to this bar called The Swamp, and it was at the time it was like right in the middle of the industrial area. Like, if you pulled up and tried to park, there's like places where trains are loading and unloading, and like there's, you know, like it's just industrial, and right in the middle of it is this like really crappy seedy bar called The Swamp. And I remember I had gone there once with some female friends of mine, and I managed to hold down the pool table long enough for us to. It was pretty busy, and I remember all the men in the bar kept challenging because they were flirting with these girls I was with. But me and my friend went back. We like looked it up on the internet, and it's like we were already kind of buzzed, so we're like, let's walk down here to the swamp. And we were hanging out, drinking in the swamp, and talking about David Lynch. And the bartender was like a guy with a white shirt with points on the collar and a string tie, and his name was Omar. like it was like, this is like right out of a David Lynch movie, right? And no shit, we get almost to the end of the night, just past midnight, and we're like, maybe we should probably start thinking about getting out of here, go back home. And everyone in the bar, like in groups, all left, and we're like, oh crap, this place is closing down, we better get one more beer and get out of here. And so we went and asked Omar, like, you guys closing down? He's like, no. It's like, what the hell? Like, everyone left the bar all like on cue within 10 or 15 minutes of each other. So we're like, well, let's get one more beer and we'll get out of here. And so we got one more beer, we go sit back down, and we're like trying to finish up. It's like, this is weird. And everyone came back to their tables and like sat back down. I was like, what the hell is this? Like, it was just so surreal and so weird. And I'm like, of course we go to like a bar where David Lynch actually used to drink. Like, that's the kicker, is that David Lynch used to drink in that bar. And it's like, oh, it's like, this is what inspired him, was sitting in this place, you know. It's crazy. It was so crazy. But yeah, I'm excited now to get up to the point of the new seasons. Is it 2 more seasons? I haven't really looked because I'm kind of avoiding it. For Twin Peaks,
There was 2 initial seasons and then one new one, right?
There's
one
in between.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's like an extended cut you can get with like an hour of deleted scenes or something on that movie. I can hook you up.
I know Lynch is big into meditation himself. That's I don't know how much you guys have followed up on his
Transcendental meditation.
Yeah, his own personal weirdness. I found a book at the local bookstore that was by him. It was in the either psychology or self-help section. It's this little tiny black book telling you how to meditate and other similar things. You know, essentially how to manifest things into your life. Go ahead, Jim.
I don't know how much advice I want to take from David Lynch.
No, that's exactly why I said that, because it's like, do we really want to like, hey, here's how I did it, try it my way. I'm David Lynch. Hi, everybody.
More magic.
I was just going to say, if you're new to the show, like, share, subscribe, or do, as we like to say.
Hey, you know what? I think Sean should sing a lullaby so that we can go back to sleep, so that we don't play right into their hands and wake up everybody.
Okay. Well, I could play the song that I wrote that has your lyric in it. You guys will have to listen close. I say, bugger fuckers drinking from an O-Fight bowl.
Okay. You'll have to rate this PG-13 tonight.
Yeah, I usually try not to drop too many F-bombs, but if you made it this long, I mean, we are past 10 o'clock. Those are the old rules, remember? Like,
right.
Alright, so I'm going to tune this thing up. By the way, folks, if you haven't joined Plus Ultra, please support Tracy and her work. There's links in the description. There's books online you can buy, or join the Plus Ultra and come hang out with us. Come hang out with us for free on the Discord. It's free for now. You never know. The Discord might graduate to being pay to play if it keeps being so awesome. We got a lot of information dropping in there. So,
it's very cool.
It's a good time. It's a total time suck.
Even if you just want to come and lurk, there's all kinds of great info there.
Also, hey, Harrison, thank you so much for coming tonight and doing this fantastic presentation.
Thank you.
And people should check out the secret statutes of the Templars. You can read it for free on the website, and pretty soon we're going to publish a book of it too.
That's going to be awesome. Definitely can't wait for that.
Me neither. I wish someone would do it. Oh, wait, I'll do it.
I wanted to know, Harrison, are you actually like fluent in other languages? I mean, to me, it's so astounding that you took 5 years of Latin and that like you can, like.
I used to be able to speak it and like hear it and understand it. I can just like translate it, like just like type it out what it is, you know. It's a lot of work sometimes.
I'm sure.
Some people make it hard.
Oh, that reminded me to, Tracy, did you see any of the Fulcanelli stuff I've been trying to get people to look at on the Discord? the Fulcanelli is really famous for having written about the Philosopher's Stone and the whole alchemical work. And I found one thing. I'll send I made a screen capture of it and modified it. I'll send that one to you because I highlighted some stuff. But it's okay. Saint Vincent de Paul supposedly was captured and sold into slavery, and after he was sold into slavery, he was captured by pirates or something, like the famous Saint Vincent de Paul. That's like his name was on all the thrift stores, right? He was captured, sold into slavery, and then an Arab alchemist purchased him and taught him all of his alchemy. It's like he wanted to make a protege of him, and I think the guy was, the way that's described in Fulcanelli's book is it's like he was lonely, so he wanted somebody to interact with. But he's in the book, Saint Vincent de Paul is quoted as saying that using Archimedes' mirror and a trick that makes a skull talk, the old Arab tricked everyone into believing that his god Muhammad was talking through this skull and fooled them and brainwashed them. So I'll make sure that you get that reference. I dropped it in the Discord though, but the Fulcanelli book is blowing my mind. Is
it Mystery of the Cathedrals you're talking about?
Yeah, exactly. The Dwellings of the Philosophers, yes, is the name of it.
Okay, yeah, but I mean, I've read that and highlighted it. I used it many times, but I guess I just never noticed that line there, because that's amazing. I remember him mentioning St. Vincent de Paul, but I don't remember the description of the Baphomet head there. I mean, that's obviously what that sounds like.
Yeah, it sounded so much like the Baphomet that it made me think of you immediately. Sorry, this guitar needs new strings, so let me try one more time to tune this thing up.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Proceed without me.
I'll just go on a minor thing real fast. I think when I was organizing, I was talking about the idea of the phoenix, and I was just kind of wondering, because it comes up a bit in alchemical art, and I know from reading the books, Secret Sects of Syria and the Lebanon, a couple of those Middle Eastern religions, I think like the Yezidis, the Druze, Manichees, Mandaists, things like that, they have an idea of their god reincarnates through specific people.
Wow.
And they'll often have they'll cite Pythagoras and Plato as some of these people, but a lot of them also have Ali, but not Muhammad.
Right.
And so yeah, it seems to be certain, and they're all Ishmaeli adjacent, I would say. These religions, they seem to have and it seems to have been also some Ishmaeli sect also seems to have believed this. And I was wondering about that because, in the Ledbetter text I was reading from earlier, which is called Secret Life of Freemasonry, he talks about a figure called the head of all true Masonry, or head of all true Freemasonry, something like that. And he says in a previous life he came as Christian Rosenkreuz. And all Masons swear fealty to the head of all true Freemasonry, and there's a picture or something like that. Very strange, and it kind of reminded me of this idea of this revisiting God person.
Some people think that Hermes did that.
Right.
And I've heard people even say that they thought Christian Rosenkreuz was a incarnation of one of the Hermeses. So, anyway, yeah.
Yeah, and one sect called that the Phoenix. That was the Phoenix coming back.
Being reborn.
Right, but there's also the idea with the phoenix, with the pelican. The pelican bowling is something like a phoenix, I suppose. It sheds its own blood to feed its young.
Right.
And I remember talking to someone being like, phoenixes actually do. Pelicans actually do that. And I'm like, no, they don't.
Yeah,
Wow.
they
No, they do not.
Oh.
I saw a thing the other day. It was a few months ago now that somebody just made up this story that eagles have to shed their beak and then grow a new one. And people were like, somebody wrote it in all of this like really compassionate, inspiring, like there's a hard struggle, but you can overcome it because the eagle has to like knock his own beak off, and then he's in a really delicate way, and he has to grow a new one. And then I'm just like, people believe this shit. They believe this. Like, no, he doesn't. That's what I'm reading it, and I'm thinking, no, he doesn't. If your eagle lost his beak, he'll die. It's really simple. Okay, so this, go ahead. This song is called Selections. I was inspired to write this song as we led up to the 2016 election because I was watching all of the people who had not been involved in politics at all and had not been talking about politics on Facebook or in person or on any other social media platform at all, suddenly all decide that they were highly political and choose sides and start to argue and unfriend each other and be derogatory and sarcastic towards one another. And I finally got sick of it and thought, fuck it, I'm going to write a song about all these people being actors, you know? It's all just like a big pro wrestling show. It's not real. I was shocked, I can't lie, later when Trump actually won. I remember laying on election night on my couch almost asleep, and I'm like, I'm going to see how this is going. And I was like, oh my god, Trump's going to win? This is fucking crazy. But, so yeah, the song is called Selections, like, because they're selected, not elected. So. Can't you see them that they're actors playing a part? They got you thinking with your head instead of your heart. And you know they're never gonna go and quit their plans if we just keep letting them play pretend. Let me tell you how the president never died, from Abraham Lincoln to the other guy. Black magic's got you worried about that vote. Your kid's late for school and she forgot her coat. And yes, you heard me how the president never died. No, they just faked it all and lied. First lady and the kids pretend to cry at a long black hearse with just a coffin inside. And tell me, what does it mean to be president? It's a henchman's bag and the money spent. It's not like owning the house, you're just paying the rent. It's like you're paying a fee just to pitch a tent. It's a family of actors playing a role, and you're goddamn right, they sold their soul. It's a blood oath curse on a long black scroll. Buggerfuckers used to drinking from an 05 bowl. And you think you get a vote in the selection? Let me tell you to your face, they just putting you on. You're driving home from work, they're out doing wrong. Buggers got me so sick I had to write a song. Hoo-ah. One more time. Let me tell you that they're actors playing a part. They got you thinking with your head instead of your heart. And you're never gonna quit their plans if you just keep letting them play pretend. Let me tell you how the president never died, from Abraham Lincoln to the other guy. Black magic got you worried about that vote. Your kid's late for school and she forgot her coat. And yes, you heard me how the president never died. No, they just faked it all and lied. The first lady and the kids pretend to cry at a long black hearse with just a coffin inside. And tell me, what does it mean to be president? It's a henchman's bag and the money spent. It's not like owning the house, you're just paying the rent. It's like you're paying a fee just to pitch a tent. It's a family of actors playing a role, and you're goddamn right, they sold their soul. It's a blood oath curse on a long black scroll. Buggerfuckers just a drinking from an 05 bowl. And you think you get a vote in the selection? Let me tell you to your face, they're just putting you on. You're driving home from work, they're out doing wrong. Buggers got me so sick I had to write a song. Ooh-ah. Thank you.
All right, yeah, good work. Nice. That was awesome.
Very nice. Thank you.
I hate that aggravating things inspire me more than anything else, but that's okay. The world is so different now than it was when I was inspired to write that song that it doesn't. It's the whole timeline cliche. It seems so real. It's so disturbingly real. Like, I was just annoyed at people being hyped up by the election cycle, and now it's like that. I can't even imagine it happening this time. Like, it's not going to happen this time. People aren't going to just, like, come out of their stupor and be like, oh, yeah, I forgot. I'm a staunch Democrat. Well, I'm a very serious fiscal Republican, blah, blah, blah. It can't happen now because they've they turned the magnets on and everything's polarized. You know, I don't know what's gonna happen. I thought they were gonna lead right up to the whole thing and then pretend to assassinate Trump. That was my prediction. Like, they're gonna get right up to the point where he's about to win, and then they're gonna like announce it that, you know, that he got shot or something. But I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you think there's gonna be another president or not? I think that's a great subject to end this night off on.
You're thinking he could be the last president, like we have the last pope now?
Yeah, and it was predicted somewhere. That's another like prophecy by some lady that 45 was as far as we go. I'd have to look it up. I don't remember.
I think definitely a lot of people would agree that you can't think of where to go from here. Like, how do you top this? You know, in terms of you don't. I don't think we could go back to, you know, re-electing people from the same family like we had for most of the last elections, you know, where it was Bush Clinton and stuff.
Yeah, and even before that, it was still just Reagan with like a Bush hiding in his trench coat, you know. So
yeah.
What do you think, Harrison? What do you think?
I don't know. With the Pope and the President at the same time, I'm not sure. I think they need to engineer something. Like, if they could pull it off with the amount of like polarization they have right now, in the sense that like there's a lot of potential energy, right?
Yeah.
Separate two magnets or something, create potential energy. And something can happen and things snap, and then you can have like big reordering. And I mean, all you have to do is prime the pump, just tell people this thing's coming, and then you just say, here it is, and people are like, oh, I guess so, huh?
Yeah, that's my gut feeling on the whole thing. When I first studied communitarianism and looking at all the Nicky Rapana stuff, and it was all about, like you were talking about, the Hegelian polarization, there was no way I could have imagined the degree to which people have been polarized, not just since, but even in the last 18, 24 months. Like, there's people disagreeing about the shape of the earth, about abortion, about politics, about race, about sex, not just about whether or not you're gay or straight, but whether or not a man or a woman can identify as the opposite and really be that, you know. It's that, like, so many polarizing things. It just trips me out. Like, and I think you're probably right on the button with the idea that if they can, they're gonna try and like. It always makes me think of in the book 1984 when they changed the banners in the middle of the 2 minutes hate. So right in the middle of the 2 minutes hate, when the whole crowd is riled up to their maximum, they switch the enemies and say, no, we were always allied with them, and those have always been our enemies. And they switch it. You know, I'm pretty sure that's how it happened. I'm just going from memory. I haven't read the book in a long time, but I'm pretty sure they changed the enemy right at the peak, you know.
I think they showed how they can do that very easily with the Kavanaugh hearing, because that was just kind of like a bunch of just smoke, right? But it was like this massive cultural event.
Yeah.
That like we distracted everybody. Like, everyone was paying attention to that, and so much can go on while that's happening. They could replace every elected official, and no one would notice if they didn't announce it. Not elected official, appointed official. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Huh, yeah.
Do you guys remember Operation Blackjack, the controversy about that?
I don't think I've ever heard of that.
Okay. So this was a series of comics that were run in, I think, the Guardian newspaper. Definitely a newspaper in England, but I think it was the Guardian. And they had no context or explanation. It's like all of a sudden this comic strip started running in the newspaper, and it ran for a few weeks, and then they stopped running it with no explanation of what it was. And the whole time they were running it, Alex Jones and all the conspiracy people were trying to interpret it and what kind of predictive programming it was, because it was all about a civil war happening in the United States with a charismatic leader who, if you look at the pictures now, if you go back and look at this Operation Blackjack stuff, you'll see how I think it looks very much like Trump. And there's a civil war, and the United States becomes part of the North American Union, and then there's just a civil war still going on between the people and the government. The government has martial law, and then there's supposedly some terrorists that get involved, and they set off dirty bombs in several cities throughout the world. Some of them are in England, some of them are in the United States, and some of them I think are other places. But anyway, it's showing you a society being manipulated by these tactics, and it shows the face of the country really just completely changing in a very short period of time. And yeah, it's a civil war going on. It totally looks like Trump.
And you said it's called Blackjack.
Yeah, I'll find it for you.
Yeah, I'll definitely want to take a close look at that, because we see it in a whole bunch of places. You know, I mentioned this a few shows back, but if you've never read the Ender's Game series, like the description of what's happening on the internet is absolutely in those books. And I've told people before that Orson Scott Card was one of the few prominent, well-known people that I went to his Wikipedia page and I'm reading about him, and of course he's like a Mormon, and then like he actually identifies his political preference as communitarian, and so that to me that was just far out, like whoa. And he in the book, if you've never read it, well, I'm not going to spoil it. It's worth reading at least the first 2 or 3 Ender's Game books, you know, because they're well written, but it's still the same thing. It's a predictive modeling. I think it ties into what were we just listening to? Cybernetics, right? Cybernetics. If you don't know what cybernetics are, that's like the process of using machines, or nowadays computers, to kind of train people to make choices in the direction you would like them to go. Now that's a really bland definition. If you want to give some nuance to that, Harrison, I would invite it.
Just a little bit of nuance to that. There's a lot of talk in it as modeling either animals, humans, or robots, or like automatons. You'll see, or they'll just say machines. They'll say animals, humans, machines. And you're like, what do we care about animals? How are we going to use technology to influence animals to do the thing we want them to do? You don't. The thing is, the early cyberneticists, they were coming up with predictive models for behavior before like computers and stuff. So they're just working out theory on paper. They modeled humans either as animals with base drives they could manipulate, or as automatons who had predictive behaviors. So part of the cybernetic plan is actually to push human behavior towards either automata or animal behavior, so that we're more predictable.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's working. Unfortunately, it's working. You know, and so the idea that seeing something or being told about something that's going to happen starts the process of developing neural pathways for that event. To me, that's like the spookiest, weirdest thing about the world we live in now. I mean, it's weird because people are under a spell. Like, you try and tell them, well, 9/11, there's a lot of suspicious stuff. And nowadays, it's been going on for so long that there's huge archives of reference, even just visual imagery. And some people just can't see that. They're like, well, yeah, that's just another coincidence. You know, I mean, it's like, it's in The Simpsons, it's in pro wrestling, it's in Back to the Future, and on, and they just can't see it. So it's really weird to me, that combined with the idea that those neural pathways were developed in that way, and some people still can't see it. It's just, it's spooky and weird, man.
Yeah, are they programming us with dopamine as we're clicking like or getting the things that we like?
That's what the ex-Facebook executives said.
Yeah, they're terrified, they said. I mean, either that or they're having them come out and act terrified, but I don't think they are. I think anyone that's been inside baseball on some kind of a project or a task or in production on things, you know, and participate in things that people that are consuming the end product they just don't need to know about it, and it's not the romantic, beautiful thing that you would think it is. It's like hard-ass, boring, sloppy work to get to the end. And I'm sure it's the same with social media, you know.
I think it worked on me because I found the Operation Blackjack stuff, and I'm looking through it, and there's many things about it that are predictive of what's going on now. But I looked at the face of the president in this series, and he really doesn't look like Trump at all. So I pasted that in my mind.
Interesting.
But the character he's playing and the whole scenario, I think fits exactly what seems to be going on, or what they tried to make happen, and maybe it still will, with the QAnon movement. Because basically, the president here of the North American Union in this series, and I dropped the link, by the way, in the chat. I dropped a link to a YouTube channel or a YouTube video that just is a slideshow showing you all the panels of the comic strip. Okay. And then I also dropped in a link to the above top secret discussion about this. And this is all from 2012, okay? So anyway, so the leader of the North American Union is speaking through broadcasts, a lot of them kind of emergency broadcasts. Basically, you know, there's martial law, and so like there's all these instructions from the North American Union government being put out through emergency broadcasts. And so the instructions are for the patriots to let them know what's going on and how to negotiate the threats that are present because of the rebellion and because of the terrorists. So to me, that's just very predictive of the kind of vibe that you get when you read the QAnon posts and then you read how people are reacting to it. It's like they really think that this is happening and that there has been a coup and that they're talking to the legitimate government through 4chan and stuff. Yeah. They're talking to representatives of the legitimate government, and there's this civil war going on, and you can be a part of it, you know?
And that's something QAnon says a lot, that like this wasn't a 4-year election.
Okay. Did you say it wasn't a 4-year election?
Yeah. Like this wasn't just for 4 years.
So it's a military coup, so it's gonna last a long time, you mean?
Yeah, well, as far as like you're saying the last president or whatever, like.
Right. So have you guys checked out the? Did you realize? I know me and Tracy have talked about it, but Harrison, have you seen the 24-hour Patriot Soapbox channel that's on YouTube?
Yes, I have.
Like, no, I throw that on sometimes when we're working because we listen to audio all the time. And to me, I told JEM today that it's to me it's like I used to, if I didn't have the things loaded up on my MP3 player back in the day, I used to have to drive a lot for work as a wheelchair technician. I had a probably 150-mile radius I had to work in. And I would always load up my MP3 player full of audiobooks and everything I could get my hands on. But if I didn't have anything, I would listen to NPR and like AM right-wing radio in parallel to try and get, you know, like trying to get the information on both sides. And so that's what I would compare listening to that Soapbox Patriot 24-hour news channel. And people think it's legit. Like, oh, finally the grassroots put out their own 24-hour news cycle. And it's like, you guys don't realize this is completely funded and being managed by military intelligence or worse, or just corporations. Yeah. But it's worth throwing it on sometimes if you can stomach it. It's hard to listen to. It really is, because it's so jingo. You know, if you know the word, like it's so...
trust the plan.
Yeah, trust the plan. Where we go one, we go all. Darkness into light. And, I mean, there is a lot of stuff that the QAnon stuff it's definitely time-stamped, dated, and real stuff, you know, that is insider stuff. There is some of it's absolutely confirmed and happening. So they like throw everybody just enough of like crappy chicken wing bone to make it seem like, well, you know, Obama's already at Guantanamo Bay, you know, and so is Tony Podesta, you know, like they say things like this, and then they give you like a little tiny bone, like, well, QAnon definitely knew this guy was going to get arrested on this date or something. And so it's this complete mindfuck.
Yep. I'm getting chills looking at these pictures, man.
Yeah, maybe we should do a whole show on it. Let's consider that. Maybe we'll throw that up there.
It is kind of creepy, especially because Trump did that whole emergency broadcast cell phone announcement.
Yeah, that was spooky.
Yep.
At least it wasn't a dick pic.
So scary.
So yeah, I mean, obviously we can digress from here and continue on, unless you know, we're at almost 3 hours and 20 minutes. If you guys want to go ahead, Harrison, I see you got your finger up there.
One thing I just want to say, I think the end of the Book of Enoch, there's a warning that's like, for the people in the end times, don't trust the hype, don't kill anybody.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I'll tell that to everybody. Just don't kill anybody.
Well, I've been telling people for a long time, like, the secret to winning World War III is to not engage. Don't fight. Don't allow yourself to be polarized. My friend Nikki, that's her whole thing, she calls her blog Living Outside the Dialectic. That's another reason I like Jason Horsley, because he's liminalist and he's trying to remain in the liminal space. Stay grounded, be non-aggressive, don't fight, don't be violent, don't have violent thoughts. Remain neutral and try and understand as best as you can, you know. And in my opinion, you know, like, grow a garden, start now, you know, like, learn how to grow things, learn how to clean and procure water, all the most basic things. You know, I'm not trying to be alarmist, but it's wonderful to grow food. So if you have a chance to grow some food and harvest a salad out of your backyard is a terrific thing, you know. But I really would like to see them fail at attempting civil war. I'm really hoping they fail at pulling it off, you know.
Yeah.
That's why I'm going to learn how to manifest potatoes.
Potatoes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my preparedness plan. I'm going to learn how to manifest.
It's better than feathers.
Yeah.
I posted
So
a link on how to manifest potatoes in the Discord.
Oh, good. Yeah, please come join us on Discord, folks. We're not sure what we're going to be doing next week, but come hell or high water, or as Hank Williams would say, good Lord willing and the creek don't rise. We'll be here next Wednesday, and we'll keep you updated either on Twitter. I'm on Facebook, but I really don't talk about Picture Show on there, but you can find me there. We're really glad that you came to join us. Thank you a million times a million, Harrison, for giving us the Walmart 30,000-foot view of esoteric cosmology. And, of course, we'd love to have you back anytime. Go check out the documents that this guy's translated, and buy Tracy's book, Baphomet, Temple Mystery Unveiled. If you want like dig in deep, her and Alex Rivera really took what we started here tonight and peeled it apart like an infinite onion skin, you know. And I look forward to when we could help you get that thing back out there and update it, Tracy. So.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, we should mention the AONI too, and I don't know if he has some other URLs at this point, but Alex Rivera has a website of his own and his own podcasts and stuff, and really good stuff there. So people should check that out too. And I'm pretty sure he has his own Patreon also.
He does. Yeah. Alex Rivera is one of the most prolific and amazing researchers I've ever found. I love his work, and if you like really dig deep dives into these kind of topics like we covered tonight, Alex is your guy, you know. And his podcast is amazing. I go back and he's one of the few guys I can go back and listen to some of the episodes over and over again because it's so dense with knowledge, you know. So if you're out there listening, Alex, we love you. We'll get you on here one day. All right, you guys ready? We'll do it in 3, 2, 1. Oh wait, Tracy's got one more thing. Go ahead, Tracy.
No, I'm
oh, she's
my
waiting.
hand right
Now we're doing the counting like in the movies. Are we going on 3? Everybody just say, okay, bye.
Okay, bye.
Okay, bye.
Okay, bye.